Chapter 2767. With a strong desire to fight surging in his eyes, Xiao Chun stomped his feet and shot toward the ferocious beast like a bomb. At the same time, spiritual power was constantly gathering around his body. Soon, a layer of spiritual power armor was formed around Xiao Chun's body. With a strong desire to fight surging in his eyes, Xiao Chun stomped his feet and shot toward the ferocious beast like a bomb. At the same time, spiritual power was constantly gathering around his body. Soon, a layer of spiritual power armor was formed around Xiao Chun's body. Xiao Chun knew that he definitely could not compare with these ancient beasts in terms of physical strength. After all, this was the difference in their levels of life. It was not something that could be made up for through physical strength. Therefore, Xiao Chun did not want to compete with this ancient ferocious beast in terms of physical strength, because it was simply impossible for him to do so. Xiao Chun took advantage of his superior spirit force to get close to the ferocious beast. When faced with the ferocious beast's attack, Xiao Chun disappeared from where he was with a realm flash. The ferocious beast's attack missed. Realm flash was no longer a matter of speed. It was a spatial shift. Therefore, even though the ancient beast's attack speed was not fast, it could not touch Xiao Chun at all. It could not do anything to Xiao Chun. At the same time, Xiao Chun instantly appeared on the beast's left side through realm flash. Without any hesitation, he swung his sword and hit the beast's body. Although Xiao Chun still did not cause any fatal damage to the beast was definitely injured. Xiao Chun's idea was very simple at the moment, which was to use his advantage of speed to continuously wear down the beast until it died. The ferocious beast had no way of dealing with Xiao Chun, who possessed the realm flash. No matter where its attacks came from, Xiao Chun could easily dodge them. Xiao Chun had an absolute advantage in terms of speed. It was as if the beast completely crushed Xiao Chun in terms of physical strength. Lin Yun, who was standing not far away, also smiled as he watched Xiao Chun continue to move. It was obvious that he was already leading the ferocious beast along. That was quite a fast reaction. Lin Yun was naturally praising Xiao Chun. They had only just started fighting, but Xiao Chun had already grasped the beast's weakness. That was the difference in speed. Although the beast's physical body was strong, its speed was definitely much weaker compared to a warrior with spiritual energy, let alone a warrior with realm power like Xiao Chun. Realm Flash could be said to have grasped the beast's weakness, making it unable to break through. Seeing this, Lin Yun no longer hesitated. She also used Realm Flash and joined forces with Xiao Chun to launch an attack. Naturally, Lin Yun had also comprehended the power of realms. To Lin Yun, Realm Flash was as simple as eating a meal. There was no difficulty in using it at all. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun used the advantage of Realm Flash's speed. It could be said that they had completely played around with the beast, making it unable to do anything. Under such circumstances, the wounds on the beast's body were increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Its injuries were also becoming more and more serious. Perhaps a simple attack was nothing to this ferocious beast. With its extremely powerful and heaven-defying physical body, it could completely ignore it. However, ants could bite an elephant to death when there were many of them. A simple injury might not be a big deal, but what if it was 10 times or 100 times? No matter how strong the physical body was, there would always be a moment when it could not take it. Love me, ebook, that was what the ferocious beast was feeling at the moment. Under the constant attacks of Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, its injuries were getting worse and worse. It was even roaring, which showed that it was in a very bad situation. In that regard, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun naturally did not hesitate at all. Slaying the beast was something that they must do. However, just as Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were about to deal the final blow to the ferocious beast suddenly opened its mouth. At the same time, there was something that looked like a blood bead in its mouth, exuding a thick bloody light. Bead? Looking at the blood bead, the corner of Lin Yun's eyes twitched. She quickly recognized it. As an existence from ancient times, the ominous beast had very few means of attack. That was because there were no cultivation methods or martial skills in that era. Moreover, the ominous beasts didn't have much intelligence, so they couldn't learn any cultivation methods or martial skills. Therefore, the beasts' attacks, to put it bluntly, relied on their tyrannical physical bodies to attack randomly. But apart from that, the beasts also had their own strongest offensive means, or it could be called their innate magical powers, just like the current beast race. The bead was the innate magical power that every ancient beast knew. They knew it from birth and did not need to learn it. The most powerful part of the bead was that it used the power of the beast's bloodline to attack. It was extremely powerful and could not be compared with the previous attacks at all. It was also because of Shao Chun and Lin Yun that the beast had no choice but to use the bead. It could be seen that it was extremely furious right now. The scarlet glint in his eyes was extremely dense, and the blood aura emitted from the blood bead in his mouth was also getting denser and denser. A frightening aura was frantically emitted. Lin Yun didn't even think about it before he spoke. "Brother Shao Chun, be careful," Lin Yun warned immediately. Unfortunately, before he could finish, the beast suddenly turned its head and aimed at Shao Chun and Lin Yun. A red beam of light suddenly shot out from its mouth. It was like a flame, but its power was far from being comparable to any other flame. The red beam of light shot towards Shao Chun and Lin Yun like a bolt of lightning. Unfortunately, Lin Yun did not finish his sentence. Its power and speed were far above the previous attacks. At this moment, Lin Yun and Shao Chun had no time to dodge. Seeing that they could only take it head-on, Lin Yun took a step forward without hesitation. At the same time, the spear in her hand suddenly pierced forward. In an instant, a golden dragon rushed out from Lin Yun's spear and collided with the red beam of light. The space was shattered. It was no longer torn, but completely shattered. However, this was only the beginning. Even the void storm that emerged from a void was completely suppressed by Lin Yun and the beast's attacks. Lin Yun had no intention of backing down in the face of the beast's speed. Besides, Lin Yun did not fall into a disadvantageous position. Although the beast's bead was powerful, Lin Yun's strength should not be underestimated. After a while, the golden dragon and the red beam slowly dissipated at the same time. Lin Yun had successfully blocked the attack of the ferocious beast. It was also at this time that Shao Chun took the opportunity to attack, slashing at the neck of the ferocious beast, begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 2768. Shao Chun grasped the timing of his attack very well. As it had just released the ominous bullet, the beast had obviously consumed a lot of energy. It was panting heavily with its mouth slightly open. It could be said that at this time, it was basically defenseless. Shao Chun grasped the timing of his attack very well. As it had just released the ominous bullet, the beast had obviously consumed a lot of energy. It was panting heavily with its mouth slightly open. It could be said that at this time, it was basically defenseless. Shao Chun took advantage of this opening and slashed down with his sword. The sword of the emperor was displayed, and a terrifying sword aura descended from the sky, slashing the neck of the ferocious beast like a guillotine. A painful hiss came out of its mouth. Under the attack of the powerful sword light, the beast's neck was directly split open. It was the weakest part of its defense. Now that it was hit by Shao Chun head-on without any defense, the consequences were absolutely imaginable. More than half of its neck was torn apart, and its head was almost separated from its body. But even so, although the beast was seriously injured, it still did not die. It was just that its injuries were not light. Seeing that the beast was still alive, Shao Chun shook his head and smiled bitterly. As expected, the beast had a strong physical body. Shao Chun was indeed surprised that it did not die. It is indeed worthy of being called the ancient ferocious beast with the strongest physical body. Even Lin Yun could not help but sigh. If it had been anyone else, even a world lord, if they had been hit by Shao Chun head-on under such circumstances, they would have probably died immediately. However, this ferocious beast relied on its strong physical body and exuberant vitality to survive in the end. Although it was seriously injured, it still did not die. It is indeed very strong, but the result is already decided. Xiao Chun did not refute Lin Yun's words. But even so, in Xiao Chun's opinion, it was just a futile struggle. This was because the ferocious beast could not even stand up after suffering such severe injuries, let alone fight again. It struggled to get up, but due to the serious injury on its neck, the ferocious beast did not succeed even after several attempts. Furthermore, blood continued to gush out from the wound on its neck like a fountain. If the previous injuries were only superficial, then the injuries caused by Xiao Chen's attack this time were definitely fatal. Therefore, even if it did not die, Xiao Chen knew that everything was already decided. In such a state, it was simply not enough to fight with Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. It was absolutely impossible. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Lin Yun nodded noncommittally. Then, the two of them attacked together, intending to give the ferocious beast a final blow and completely end its life. Their target naturally did not use their hands. They also aimed at the ferocious beast's already severely injured neck. The two of them attacked at the same time, aiming directly at the beast's neck. After this attack, the beast obviously did not have the slightest chance. No matter how strong its physical strength was, it was impossible for it to survive such an attack. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were very clear about this point. However, just when the two of them were certain that the beast was completely finished and their attacks were about to hit the beast, their attacks were stopped less than 10 meters away from the beast without any warning for some unknown reason. As if they had encountered some kind of assistance, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's attacks were unable to advance any further. In the end, after a stalemate of about 10 breaths, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's attacks dissipated one after another. However, rather than saying that they dissipated, it was more accurate to say that they were blocked and shattered by someone. 5:20 after the attacks dissipated, a young girl wearing animal skin appeared in front of Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. The young girl looked to be only 8 or 9 years old, but there was a faint smile on her young face that did not belong to her age. It was this young girl who had suddenly appeared without any warning and blocked Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's attacks. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were on guard in regards to this. Although this young girl appeared harmless on the surface, she was clearly not a simple person since she could block their attacks. Moreover, after this young girl appeared, the ancient beast even displayed extreme intimacy and even whined softly to the young girl as if it was trying to curry favor with her. The young girl nodded slightly. "All right, I know you've done your best. You can't make any mistakes." The girl was communicating with the ferocious beast. When the ferocious beast heard her words, it actually moved its head a little. This was already a sign that it was trying to please her. A person who could make such a terrifying ancient beast take the initiative to curry favor with her would definitely be a simple person. Immediately, Lin Yun asked, "Who are you?" The sudden appearance of the young girl made Xiao Chun and Lin Yun unconsciously put their guard up. Upon hearing that, the young girl said unhurriedly, "Me? I'm considered this little thing's elder." An 8 or 9-year-old young girl actually pointed at an ancient beast and said that she was its elder. Such a scene should be extremely comical, but Xiao Chun and Lin Yun didn't have much doubt about it. That was because from the ferocious beast's actions, it was very clear that the ferocious beast was extremely respectful and even somewhat afraid of the young woman. However, after knowing the young girl's identity, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun frowned even more because according to the records in the ancient books, it was impossible for beasts to transform. Transforming was an ability that beasts gradually gained after they slowly transformed into monsters and beasts. Due to the problem of innate spiritual intelligence, no matter how strong a beast was, it was impossible for it to have the opportunity to transform. However, this young girl didn't look like a beast at all. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were both curious about beasts that could shape-shift, and the girl seemed to have guessed what they were thinking. She smiled sweetly and said, "There are exceptions to everything. After living for so long, it's not strange that I can shape-shift." Xiao Chun and Lin Yun didn't reply. Although they didn't know how this young girl transformed, they guessed from various aspects that this young girl was undoubtedly the murderer. Moreover, she was a beast that was far stronger than the dragon turtle from before. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the dragon turtle to be so respectful and fearful. Although they didn't sense the slightest aura from the young girl and didn't even feel threatened, this wasn't the reason why they couldn't see through her. On the contrary, the more they couldn't see through her, the more Xiao Chun and Lin Yun paid attention to her, because this proved that the young girl's strength was ridiculously strong. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun couldn't see through her at all. While Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were pondering, neither of them noticed that the young girl suddenly vanished on the spot and suddenly appeared behind them. Then she spoke sweetly. "Hey, you're Lin Yun and Xiao Chun, right? I've heard of you. Hee hee, you actually dared to go against the origin world. You're really impressive. Please add me to your collection. Please recommend me." Chapter 2769. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were taken aback by the sudden appearance of the young lady behind them. From the beginning to the end, both of them were certain that they hadn't relaxed at all. But even so, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun still couldn't capture the slightest sign of the young lady's movement at that moment. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were taken aback by the sudden appearance of the young lady behind them. From the beginning to the end, both of them were certain that they hadn't relaxed at all. But even so, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun still couldn't capture the slightest sign of the young lady's movement at that moment. Without hesitation, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun stepped back at the same time. In response, the young lady said with a smile, "Are you that afraid of me?" The young lady looked harmless, but in Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's hearts, the threat level of this young lady rose sharply. Previously, they guessed that this young lady was a beast, but a beast could actually transform? Also, how could a beast be so fast? Beasts didn't have spiritual power and relied entirely on their physical bodies to fight. The appearance of the young lady broke Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's understanding of beasts. Even Lin Yun asked suspiciously, "Who exactly are you? Are you a beast or not?" Lin Yun even began to wonder if the young lady in front of her was a beast. In response, the young lady said with a sweet smile, "Yes, but I'm a little different from ordinary beasts." She generously admitted her identity as a beast. Regarding this, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's frown deepened. Perhaps it was because of her personality, but the young lady liked to chat with others. Before Xiao Chun and Lin Yun could speak, the young lady had already taken the initiative to speak. "You don't have to be so surprised, right? It's just that it can transform. Besides, who said that dire beasts can't transform?" Under the girls' deliberate conversation, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun also slowly opened up the topic. After all, since the girl appeared until now, she did not show much hostility. This also made Xiao Chun and Lin Yun secretly sigh in relief. Hearing the girl's friendly attitude, Xiao Chun said, "Since you're a vicious beast, you don't have any spiritual energy? That's for sure. Ferocious beasts have no way of absorbing heaven and earth spirit chi. Moreover, it's impossible for us to construct a dantian." Hearing this, the young girl said straightforwardly, "What about your speed? Since it didn't have spiritual power, why was his speed so fast?" He was so fast that even Lin Yun and Xiao Chun didn't have time to react. In this regard, the girl smiled, and then her figure disappeared again. In the blink of an eye, she appeared in front of the two. With her hands behind her back, she looked at the shocked Xiao Chun and Lin Yun and said, "There's nothing strange about this, right? I can do it with my physical strength. By the way, this should be called Realm Flash among you warriors." It's somewhat similar, but it's mostly the same. Just by relying on her physical body, she could do the same spatial shift as Realm Flash. Hearing the girl's words, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were speechless. Was this really something that could be done with physical strength? Although they didn't want to believe it, the facts were in front of them. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had no reason to refute. Next, after chatting for a while, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun found out that the girl's name was Beast Slave. Her identity also surprised Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. Love me. According to what Beast Slave saw, she was the ancestor of all fierce beasts. She was also the first fierce beast to be born at the beginning of the world. It could be said that she was in existence like the father of heaven and mother of earth. She was only slightly inferior to the ancestors. It could be said that although the beast's slave wasn't an ancestor, his strength wasn't something a world lord could compare with. He was the closest existence to an ancestor. When the beast's slave talked about an ancestor, he didn't care about it at all. Humph. Those old fellows relied on the fact that they were born a little earlier than me and were always high and mighty. I hate them so much. When beast's slave talked about the ancestors, she didn't show the slightest fear because with her strength, although she might not be a match for the ancestors, there was absolutely no problem in fighting with them. Moreover, if it wasn't for her special identity, she might be one of the ancestors. However, she obviously had no interest in the ancestors. Then, you're trapped here? After learning Beast Slave's identity, Xiao Chun asked doubtfully. He guessed that she was trapped here and couldn't get out. However, the Beast Slave curled his lips and said, "No, this is my home. I can leave at any time." The road of origin was her home. Hearing Beast Slave's words, Xiao Chun and Lin Yin looked at each other. They both had the same thought in their minds. Was this the brain circuit of these abnormal creatures at the beginning of the world, who would settle their home on the road of origin? However, the Beast Slave wasn't trapped here. To put it more accurately, no one could trap him. Even if the progenitors took action, they would only be able to trap him for a short period of time, but they definitely wouldn't be able to trap him forever. Therefore, the primogenitors chose to turn a blind eye to the Beast Slaves. After all, the Beast Slaves were born right after the primogenitors, so it wasn't easy to deal with them. Come to think of it, if all the forces in this world were to be compared to a pyramid, the primogenitors would naturally be the ones standing at the top. Below them would be ancient creatures like the Beast Slaves, which were slightly weaker by half a level. Now, Beast Slave was not the only ancient creature. According to Beast Slave, in addition to her, there were many other ancient creatures living in this world. The ancestors were almost indifferent to their existence. They ignored them and would not take the initiative to provoke them. At the same time, these ancient creatures were not interested in intervening in the affairs of the world. They were more likely to have a playful attitude. After all, they had lived for too long. If they didn't find some fun, they would probably be driven crazy. This was Beast Slave's original words. Listening to Beast Slave talking a lot, Xiao Chun and Lin Yin were speechless. This powerful girl was actually a chatterbox. Once she started talking, she couldn't stop at all. In the end, Xiao Chun asked helplessly, "Do you have no friends around you?" "No, I have a lot of friends. All the fierce beasts here are my friends. Also, I have many friends in the outside world. It's just that those people's lifespans are too short. They seem to die in the blink of an eye. They can't accompany me at all." Speaking of this, Beast Slave's eyes flashed with a trace of loneliness. She seemed to feel sad for the constant comings and goings of people around her. No one could really accompany her. Being born, old age, illness, and death was a problem that Beast Slave couldn't solve. Please collect, please vote, please recommend. Chapter 2770. Seeing the trace of desolation in the Beast Slave's eyes, Xiao Chun could understand the Beast Slave's mood. As one of the ancient creatures, the Beast Slave's lifespan was extremely long. They had existed since the beginning of the world. Seeing the trace of desolation in the Beast Slave's eyes, Xiao Chun could understand the Beast Slave's mood. As one of the ancient creatures, the Beast Slave's lifespan was extremely long. They had existed since the beginning of the world. Later creatures didn't have the lifespan of a Beast Slave. They could only increase their lifespan through continuous cultivation. But even so, there would always be a time when they reached the end of their lifespan. Perhaps 100 years or 1,000 years was a very long time for an ordinary warrior. But for a Beast Slave, it was just a matter of a snap of a finger. Perhaps 100 years would have passed by the time they woke up. For an ancient creature like the Beast Slave, this wasn't a strange thing. Seeing the people around him leaving unceasingly, coming and going, but no one was able to stay by his side all the time, the Beast Slave would naturally feel lonely. Putting aside her identity as a Beast Slave, just from her appearance, she was an innocent little girl. She was chubby and very cute, just like Xiao Wan when she was young. Unconsciously, Xiao Qin smiled and extended his hand. "If you don't mind, I can be your friend." I think I should be able to live for a long time. I won't easily leave you behind." Hearing Xiao Chen's words, the beast slave was stunned. Then, he looked at Xiao Chun with an expression of disbelief. His eyes didn't even blink. After a long while, he asked in disbelief, "Really?" "Of course." Hearing this, Xiao Chun smiled and nodded. He was very eager to be friends. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, the beast slave jumped up with a smile and then pretended to be a little adult and said, "Well, then from today onwards, we are friends." Although the beast slave had lived much longer than Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun could not help but grin when they saw her appearance. Such an ancestor of the beast was indeed very surprising. Who would have thought that the famous ancestor of the beast would actually be a little girl, even though this was not her original body? With two more friends, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, the beast slave seemed very happy. Then the three of them chatted more happily. At the same time, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun also asked more about the Road of Origin. The two of them didn't know much about the Road of Origin, but the beast slave was different. On this Road of Origin, there's almost no place that the beast slave had not been to, so she knew everything about the Road of Origin very well. It's basically impossible for you to pass through this Road of Origin. As soon as they came up, the beast slave poured cold water on them, but soon she began to explain. Although there have been many people who have passed through the Road of Origin, but that was because another old guy and I went easy on them. That's why they could pass through the Road of Origin. If that old guy and I didn't go easy on them, no one could pass through the Road of Origin. Old guy. Yes, this Road of Origin consists of a total of 4 spaces, and the first space where we are now is my home. However, I'm not the only ancient creature on the Road of Origin. In the 4th space, there is another ancient creature. Let me tell you, he is an old-fashioned and annoying old man. He is no fun at all. He only knows how to meditate all day long. It's very boring. There was another ancient creature on the Road of Origin. Hearing this news, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun both frowned slightly. This was naturally not good news for the two of them. After all, they had already seen the strength of an ancient creature. The beast slave's strength was absolutely not to be underestimated. Even if it was Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, they were not confident of winning. Since they were both ancient creatures, then the old guy in the 4th space was obviously not weak. Between you and that ancient creature, who is stronger and who is weaker? Xiao Chun couldn't help but ask curiously. About the same. That old guy was transformed from a rainbow sacred stone at the beginning of the world, and I am the ancestor of the fierce beasts. If we really want to fight, the outcome should be 50-50. However, that old guy has a lot of means, which is a bit troublesome. Moreover, he is extremely stubborn. It is said that the old guy said that he would not let anyone pass through the Road of Origin, and since then, no one has passed through the Road of Origin. Transformed from a rainbow, sacred stone? Hearing the beast slave's words, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun frowned even more. Because from the beast slave's words, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had already guessed that the old guy should be an extremely stubborn person, and he basically meant what he said and never changed his words. This could be seen from the moment he said that he would not let anyone pass through the Road of Origin, which meant that no one would pass through the Road of Origin. Moreover, there was an even more shocking fact from the beast slave's mouth. Previously, Lin Yun also said that the Road of Origin was the only passage that led to the Origin world. At that time, people could still enter the Origin world through the Road of Origin, and the beast slave and the old guy would turn a blind eye to it. However, later on, for some unknown reason, the old guy suddenly said that he would not let anyone pass through the Road of Origin, and from then on, no one really passed through the Road of Origin. Thus, the ancestors of the Origin world had purposely come to the Road of Origin to talk to the old man. However, the old man didn't agree. In the end, the ancestors had no choice but to build the passages connecting to the Origin world in different universes. It could be said that the reason why the Road of Origins was abandoned was not because of what the primordial ancestors said, but because of the old man in the 4th space. Even the primordial ancestors couldn't do anything to him. Or rather, the primordial ancestors didn't want to offend him over such a trivial matter, so they simply let him be. At worst, they would have to spend some effort to build the channel themselves. Even the ancestors were forced to compromise, which showed how stubborn the old guy in the fourth space was. As such, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's hope of passing through the road of origin was indeed slim. For a moment, the two of them were a little depressed, but the beast's slave said with a smile, "Don't worry, we are friends. I will definitely help you. Let me deal with the old guy. When the time comes, you can take the opportunity to pass through the road of origin. With me involved, the old guy will not attack you." The beast's slave patted his chest confidently, looking very heroic. However, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were delighted when they heard his words. If they had the help of the beast slave, it would indeed save them a lot of trouble. At least the beast slave was also an ancient creature, so it should not be a problem for him to restrain the old guy. In this way, it would give Xiao Chun and Lin Yun an excellent opportunity. Please add me to your collection. Monthly vote. Recommend me. End of this chapter. Chapter 2771. The beast slave offered to help Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun naturally wouldn't refuse the help of the beast slave. After all, how could they refuse the help of such an expert? Ancestor Qing had been watching their conversation from the beginning to the end. Looking at the beast slave who was chatting happily with Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, Ancestor Qing smiled bitterly. This beast slave is still the same after so many years. Ancestor Qing was naturally familiar with the beast slave. As an ancient creature, the beast slave had a lot of contact with the origin world. Ancestor Qing had always been helpless with the beast slave's temperament. However, Ancestor Qing didn't seem to have any intention of stopping them. He didn't show any signs of anger either. On the other side, after the beast slave offered to help, the three of them prepared to rush to the next space. On the way, with the beast slave accompanying them, the ferocious beasts in the first space naturally wouldn't attack Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. After all, the beast slave was the ancestor of the ferocious beasts. The ferocious beasts wouldn't disrespect the beast slave at all. The beast slave even summoned a ferocious beast and asked Xiao Chun and Lin Yun to ride it together. While they were rushing, the beast slave asked curiously, "Right, why are you two going to the origin world? Moreover, you don't need to go through the road of origin to go to the origin world now, right?" The beast slave was curious about the reason why Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had entered the road of origin. After all, if they wanted to go to the origin world, they didn't need to go through the road of origin at all. Hearing the beast slave's words, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun didn't hide anything. They told the beast slave the truth, including the fact that the ancestors of the origin world wanted to create a new world and the fact that their families were kidnapped. Hearing Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's words, the beast slave was stunned at first. Then, he said unhappily, "Do those old guys have nothing better to do? What new world? That's just nonsense." The beast slave was speechless when she heard that the ancestors wanted to explore this so-called new world. Through Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, the beast slave also understood some things about the new world. In the eyes of the beast slave, this so-called new world was obviously meaningless. She also didn't agree with the creation of this new world. To erase the 7 emotions and 6 desires of all living beings and create a new world, wasn't this nonsense? Even the beast slaves knew what the world would become without the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun found it strange that the beast slave didn't seem to know anything about the new world. In response, the beast slave smiled embarrassedly. "I've been here all these years and haven't gone out, so I know about the outside world." The beast slave didn't say it clearly. All these years, she had been resting in the origin road and hadn't gone out, so she didn't know anything about the outside world at all. Naturally, she didn't know about the new world. The beast slave didn't even know that the outside world was in a mess. It was only when she learned from Xiao Chun and Lin Yun that the various universes in the outside world were in a chaotic war that the beast slave came to a realization. "So, you're going to the origin world this time to save your families? And then become enemies with the origin world?" The beast slave withdrew her smile and asked with a serious expression. Becoming enemies with the origin world was not a wise decision. However, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun still nodded in agreement. Seeing this, The beast slave smiled and said, "That's right. Do you know how strong the origin world is? Not to mention you. Even if all the universes in the outside world join forces, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for them to become enemies with the origin world. No matter what, we won't give in just like that. Think about the new world that the primogenitors mentioned. It's not a world that all living beings need." Xiao Chun didn't think much and replied directly. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had always been against the so-called New World. Even though they knew it would be difficult to stop the primogenitors, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun didn't have the slightest intention of giving up. They also had their families, so Xiao Chun and Lin Yun wouldn't give up either. Hearing Xiao Chun's words, the beast slave looked at him in surprise. Since Xiao Chun could become a world lord, he definitely wasn't an idiot. He must know the consequences of going against the origin world. One thing was for sure, Xiao Chun wouldn't gain any advantage by going against the origin world. He might even bring disaster to himself. Although it was difficult to kill a world lord, it didn't mean it was impossible. Moreover, it was the origin world that would make a move. With the foundation of the origin world or the strength of the primogenitors, it shouldn't be too difficult to kill a world lord. Even the beast slave was confident that he could kill a world lord. Therefore, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's choice could be said to be a desperate one. It could be said that they were going against the strongest group of people in the world. Naturally, there was no need to talk about it. The result wasn't certain, but at least the beast slave knew that Xiao Chun and Lin Yun seemed to be the first people who dared to go against the origin world. Since the beginning of the origin world had always stood at the peak of the world. No one had ever dared to openly go against the origin world, let alone go against it. It could be said that Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were the first. Even if the origin world wanted to create a new world, if it was someone else, they wouldn't have the courage to go against the origin world. Therefore, the beast slave admired Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's courage. At least, they weren't spineless. His eyes looked back and forth between Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. Facing the beast slave's gaze, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun didn't know what to do. The beast slave quickly said with a smile, "Are the two of you really not afraid of death? There's nothing to be afraid of. After all, once the new world is established, it will be worse than death. Instead of living like that, it's better to take a gamble and do what we want to do," Xiao Chun said with a smile. Xiao Chun's reply obviously stunned the beast slave. But soon the beast slave smiled. In the eyes of Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, the new world was purgatory on earth. It was a world made up of walking corpses. Living in such a world was indeed worse than death. Therefore, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun chose to take a gamble. In response, the beast slave said, "Interesting. Why don't I join you too? I don't have any expectations for this new world." The beast slave wanted to join Xiao Chun's alliance. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were, of course, delighted. They couldn't find any reason to refuse. After all, the addition of the beast slave would definitely increase the strength of Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's alliance. When the time came, they would have a higher chance of contending against the origin world, even though it was still very small. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. In a chapter. Chapter 2772. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun did not expect that the beast slave would join the alliance. At the same time, they were very happy. After all, the beast slave was a powerful existence that was even stronger than a world lord. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun did not expect that the beast slave would join the alliance. At the same time, they were very happy. After all, the beast slave was a powerful existence that was even stronger than a world lord. With such a powerful existence, it was definitely great news for Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's alliance. Who would have thought that the trip to the Road of Origin would bring them such a great harvest? However, before Xiao Chun and Lin Yun could be happy for too long, the beast slave joked, "Don't be happy too early. After all, it's still a problem whether you can leave the origin world alive." What the beast slave said was true. This time, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were going to the origin world to rescue their families. However, it was not difficult to imagine how difficult it would be. Although they had the help of the beast slave, it should not be a problem for them to pass through the Road of Origin. However, After entering the origin world, it would be extremely difficult to rescue their families from the hands of the primal ancestors. At least, since the day the origin world appeared, no one had been able to take people away from the origin world, let alone rescue them. Moreover, it was right under the eyes of the primogenitors. Therefore, even though the beast slave had decided to join Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's alliance, the situation was not very optimistic. The beast slave was not worried about her safety. After all, even if the primogenitors wanted to kill her, it would not be easy. It would take a lot of effort. Therefore, under normal circumstances, the primogenitors would not provoke the ancient creatures like the beast slave. Even if there was a conflict between them due to some reason, after the primogenitors won, the conflict would be over. This kind of thing had happened before. After all, it wasn't a secret that the ancient creatures had always been at odds with the origin world. It wasn't the first time they'd fought each other. Moreover, the origin world progenitors had won every single time. However, in the end, the ancient creatures would only suffer some minor punishment. Therefore, the beast slave was not worried about her safety. However, it was different for Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. According to the beast slave's understanding of the old guys in the origin world, perhaps they did not put Xiao Chun and Lin Yun in their eyes. To put it bluntly, facing Lin Yun and Xiao Chun's resistance, those old guys in the origin world might just treat it as a game. However, once those old guys in the origin world felt threatened, the situation would be completely different. At that time, the situation that Xiao Chun and Lin Yun would face would not be as easy as it was now. After feeling threatened, the origin world would definitely eradicate Xiao Chun's group as fast as lightning. Therefore, the beast slave said that now was not the time to be happy. In fact, there was no reason to be happy at all. This was because even with the addition of the beast slave, it wouldn't have much of an impact on the overall situation. With just the beast slave alone, the changes it could make were limited. Hearing the beast slave's words, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun also understood the truth. Therefore, the joy in their hearts quickly faded. However, in fact, we can still rope in other ancient creatures. For example, that old geezer in the fourth space. Although I don't like him very much, I know that old geezer doesn't have a good relationship with the origin world. If we can get his help, at least this trip to the origin world will be much smoother. The beast slave continued. It was obvious that she did not finish her words in one go on purpose. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun smiled helplessly. This beast slave was very strong, but her temperament was very lively. She did not look like an old monster who had lived for many years at all. I love ebooks, however. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun both felt that the beast slave suggestion was not bad. Increasing their strength was the most important thing now, but it was not easy to rope in an ancient creature. Therefore, Xiao Chun asked, "Is there a possibility of success? If he could rope in another ancient life form, that would naturally be the best. But what were the chances of success?" Xiao Chun was not sure. After all, the ancient creatures were very strong, but their temperaments were definitely very strange. It was not difficult to see this from the beast slave. Frankly speaking, the reason why the beast slave joined the alliance was completely an accident, and it was also related to her temperament. If the beast slave did not have such a temperament, it would be absolutely impossible for Xiao Chun to rope her in. This made Xiao Chun even less confident. Roping in an ancient creature was not something that could be done by just talking. After hearing Xiao Chun's words, the beast slave directly poured a bucket of cold water on him. If it's the two of you, there's almost no chance of success. That old geezer will not even pay attention to you. Hearing this, Xiao Chun's expression did not change too much because he had already guessed that this would be the result. However, before Xiao Chun could speak, the beast slave continued. "However, with me here, it's half and half. At least there is still a chance of success. Moreover, that old geezer will probably not agree with the new world that the primogenitors mentioned. In addition to his bad temper, the chances of him agreeing are still very high." Hearing the beast slave's words, Xiao Chun said helplessly, "Can you finish your words in one go in the future?" Every time the beast slave spoke, she would only say half of what she wanted to say, which made Xiao Chun and Lin Yun speechless. In response, the beast slave laughed very happily, as if teasing Xiao Chun and Lin Yun was a very fun thing to do. Although Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were helpless, they had no other choice. After being inspired by the beast slave, Lin Yun and Xiao Chun had a bold idea, which was to rope in more ancient creatures. Everyone understood that it was very difficult to fight against the origin world. It was almost impossible. Xiao Chun and the others' current strength was as weak as ants. At least, it was so in the eyes of the origin world. In the entire world, besides the origin world, the strongest forces that Xiao Chun and the others could rope in were the ancient creatures. Moreover, the ancient creatures were the only existences that could fight against the primogenitors. Although there was no hope of victory, at least they could fight. This was already very rare. If they could rope in enough ancient creatures, the situation would take a turn for the better. Although they might not be able to defeat the origin world, they would at least have the strength to fight. This idea was very bold. No one had ever thought of it before. It was only after encountering the beast slave that Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had such an idea. The more Xiao Chun and Lin Yun thought about it, the more feasible they felt it was. It was the only way at present. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 2773. The more they thought about it, the more they felt it was an opportunity. After all, no one doubted the strength of the ancient creatures. They were the closest to the primogenitors and the only ones who could contend with them. The more they thought about it, the more they felt it was an opportunity. After all, no one doubted the strength of the ancient creatures. They were the closest to the primogenitors and the only ones who could contend with them. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun shared their thoughts with the beast slave as they hurried on their way. The beast slave pondered for a moment and said, "It's possible. However, I don't know if those guys will agree. After all, although the ancient creatures don't have a good impression of the origin realm, they don't have deep friendships with each other. Many ancient creatures even have deep rifts with each other, so it won't be easy." The ancient creatures weren't united. It could even be said that they never interacted with each other. This was one of the reasons why the origin realm didn't have to worry about the ancient creatures. Although the ancient creatures were powerful, their threat would be greatly reduced if they had their own camps. They weren't like the origin realm, where they were a single entity. Therefore, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's idea of uniting the ancient creatures was a good idea, but was difficult to implement. However, the beast slave thought it was worth a try. Moreover, with the beast slave around, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun wouldn't have to search for the ancient creatures without any clues. The beast slave would at least know where many ancient creatures were. With the beast slave leading the way, they could easily find those ancient creatures. However, it was still too early to talk about this. They had to wait until Xiao Chun and the others could safely leave the origin realm. If they couldn't even leave the origin realm, then everything they said would be meaningless. The hope of success this time was actually placed on the old man in the fourth space. If he was willing to help, then things would be much simpler. After all, even the primogenitors wouldn't underestimate the strength of the two ancient creatures. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun agreed with the beast slave's idea. Therefore, they had to try their best to rope in the ancient creature in the fourth space. While talking, Xiao Chun and his companions left the primary space safely under the protection of a ferocious beast. After leaving the primary space, they appeared on the path of stars again. This was the outside world of the Road of Origin, and according to the beast slave, the secondary space was just ahead. There were no ancient creatures in the secondary space, so there was no need to pay attention to it. Of course, if it were just Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, they would have to be very careful when they passed through the secondary space because there were a lot of powerful, vengeful spirits from ancient times. Even Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had to be very careful. These resentful spirits were born after the war broke out at the beginning of the world. Then, they were imprisoned in the second space of the Road of Origin by the ancestors and could never be reincarnated. According to the ancestors, these people were all sinners and had no reason to be punished like this. Of course, the beast slave didn't know this, let alone care about these resentful spirits. Originally, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had to carefully pass through the secondary space. But with the help of the beast slaves, the three of them were able to enter the secondary space with ease. Compared to the primary space where the beast slave was, the secondary space felt gloomy and cold. There was no day, only night, and there was almost no light in the sky. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the air was full of the smell of decay. It was cold and damp. This was the feeling that the secondary space gave people. Sounds of nature under the cover of the night. Miserable howls continued to ring one after another, accompanied by the ancient Sanskrit sounds unique to the road of origin, which made people shudder. However, the beast slave wasn't affected at all. With his hands behind his back, he skipped in front of Xiao Chun and Lin Yun as if he was having fun. Neither the ancient Sanskrit sounds nor the wails of these resentful spirits had any effect on the beast slave. As he walked, the beast slave complained in dissatisfaction. These resentful spirits are really annoying. They cry and howl all day long. One day, I will definitely kill them with my own hands. The beast slave didn't care about how these people were when they were alive, but their wails were really annoying. However, as soon as the beast slave finished speaking, a large number of resentful spirits appeared around the three of them. These resentful spirits looked terrifying and gave people an extremely uncomfortable and even terrifying feeling. However, Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the beast slave didn't care at all. The beast slave's pretty face turned cold as he glanced at the resentful spirits around him and shouted coldly, "A bunch of reckless things." These vengeful spirits basically had no intelligence. They only knew how to kill and devour each other. Therefore, it could be said that it was common for vengeful spirits to devour each other. Devouring their own kind was extremely helpful for the growth of these vengeful spirits' strength. The more vengeful spirits devoured, the stronger they would become. Countless resentful spirits were locked in the secondary space. At this moment, the beast slave said to Xiao Chun and Lin Yun indifferently, "Follow me, and don't get lost." With that, a terrifying blood essence power gushed out from the beast slave's body and formed a blood-red protective shield around the three of them. This protective shield was as dazzling as the sun in the cold and dark secondary space. They had never seen such a terrifying blood essence power. Even the ferocious beast they saw in the primary space couldn't compare with it. It could even be said that the difference was like heaven and earth. The beast slave was indeed worthy of being the ancestor of ferocious beasts to be able to achieve this with blood essence power alone. After sensing the rich blood essence power, the resentful spirits also rushed forward crazily as if attracted by something. However, their attacks weren't enough to threaten the three of them at all. Before they could even get close, the beast slave's blood essence power directly vaporized them. The terrifying power directly vaporized the resentful spirits halfway through their journey as if they were water vapor. Even so, the resentful spirits still rushed forward dauntlessly. As for Xiao Chun and the other two, they walked forward under the beast slave's lead as if there was no one else around. With the beast slave's protection, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun didn't need to do anything at all. The resentful spirits couldn't get close to them at all. The beast slave seemed to be used to this and didn't mind at all. He even complained to Xiao Chun while walking. These things that look neither human nor ghost aren't strong, but there are a lot of them. Moreover, they don't know fear. I really don't know why the old guys in the origin world keep these things. Please add them to your collection. Please recommend them. Chapter 2774. The beast slave obviously didn't have the slightest favorable impression of the vengeful souls in the secondary space. In the beast slave's opinion, they should just be killed, which would be a relief for them. However, the progenitors of the origin world wanted to keep them alive. The beast slave obviously didn't have the slightest favorable impression of the vengeful souls in the secondary space. In the beast slave's opinion, they should just be killed, which would be a relief for them. However, the progenitors of the origin world wanted to keep them alive. They weren't strong, at least in the beast slave's opinion. Therefore, No matter how many vengeful souls there were, they posed no threat to the beast slave at all. Surrounded by vengeful souls, the three of them strolled leisurely as if they were taking a stroll. Under the protection of the beast slave, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, who were supposed to have a tough battle to pass through the secondary space, didn't feel any pressure at all. That was the benefit of having someone to rely on. The beast slave's powerful strength saved Xiao Chun and Lin Yun a lot of trouble. It could be said that the beast slave swept through everything in his way. Wherever he went, the vengeful souls would be blasted to pieces by the powerful blood energy of the beast slave before they could even get close to him. Seeing that the beast slave wasn't affected at all, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun sighed inwardly. That was a power that surpassed that of a world lord. It could be said that he was born with it. After walking for a while, the beast slave pouted and said unhappily, "This is so troublesome. If we keep going like this, when will we be able to leave this place?" The secondary space wasn't small and wasn't much different from the primary space where the beast slave was. It would definitely take a lot of time to walk like this. Therefore, the beast slave soon lost his patience and stood still. He ignored the vengeful souls around him and shouted coldly at the front, "Why aren't you coming out? Do you want me to go to you in person?" No one knew who the beast slave was talking to, but as soon as he finished speaking, the vengeful spirits in front of him consciously opened up a path. Then, a tall and strong vengeful spirit that was clearly different from the other vengeful spirits strode out from the path. The difference between this vengeful spirit and an ordinary vengeful spirit could be distinguished at a glance. The difference between the two was simply too great. "This is," Xiao Chan said suspiciously as he stared at the unique soul. The beast slave looked at him indifferently and explained, "That guy is the master of the secondary space. He calls himself the Lord of Unrepentant Souls. It's said that he has swallowed a lot of unrepentant souls and is the strongest being in the secondary space. He should be stronger than you, but it's not impossible for you to defeat him if you join forces." The master of vengeful souls? The strongest being in the secondary space? Hearing the beast slave's words, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were both stunned. Is this guy so strong? Besides, in a one-on-one battle, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun aren't as strong as him. After hearing the beast slave's words, the two of them carefully sized up the master of vengeful souls. Judging from his aura, the master of vengeful souls was indeed not weak. At the very least, even Xiao Chun and Lin Yun felt their hearts palpitate. If they were to fight, the outcome would indeed be unpredictable. The road of origin was indeed not an ordinary place. If the master of vengeful souls was placed in the outside world, it would probably be enough to give many world lords a headache. However, when such a terrifying existence arrived in front of the beast slave, it respectfully saluted and said, "Greetings, Lord Beast Slave." His tone was very respectful, and he didn't dare to show the slightest dissatisfaction. Although they were both in the road of origin, the master of vengeful souls and the beast slave were two completely different beings. To put it bluntly, the master of vengeful souls was trapped on the road of origin and couldn't leave the secondary space at all. However, the beast slave was an ancient creature, and the road of origin couldn't trap her at all. In the eyes of the beast slaves, this so-called lord of vengeful spirits was nothing. It was merely a vengeful spirit that had devoured many of its own kind. It was not worth mentioning. Compared to the ancient creatures like the beast slaves, it was an existence on a completely different level. Under normal circumstances, the beast slave rarely came back to the secondary space. The last time he came was thousands of years ago. At that time, the beast slave gave the master of vengeful souls a good beating and almost killed him directly. In the end, the beast slave felt bored and took the initiative to let him go. Therefore, when facing the beast slave again, the master of vengeful souls' attitude was extremely respectful. It couldn't be helped. The girl in front of him was an existence that could destroy his soul at any time. Hearing the respectful tone of the master of vengeful souls, the beast slave put his hands behind his back and said indifferently, "Do you not know I'm here? Or are you deliberately playing dumb? Do you want me to slaughter you in the secondary space? Hearing that, the master of vengeful souls still replied respectfully with a hint of flattery. My lord, please don't be angry. I wouldn't dare to offend you. It's true that I didn't notice you for a while. Ordinary vengeful souls didn't have much intelligence, but the master of vengeful souls was different. Because he had devoured many of his own kind, he had developed intelligence and was not weak. He was almost no different from a normal person. Hearing that, the beast slave didn't want to argue. He waved his hand and said, Okay, don't say such useless things. Let your vengeful souls send us out. I'm tired of walking. Yes, the master of vengeful souls said respectfully. Then, many vengeful souls continued to gather and soon formed a spirit boat made of vengeful souls. The spirit boat wasn't big and could even be said to be very simple. It didn't even have a cabin, only a deck. However, under the guidance of the beast slave, Xiao Chun and the girl boarded the spirit boat. Sitting on the spirit boat made of vengeful souls, Xiao Chun and the other two headed for the exit of the secondary space. Along the way, the master of vengeful souls followed the spirit boat like a servant, waiting for the beast slave's orders at any time. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were speechless along the way. Those vengeful souls couldn't cause any trouble in front of the beast slave at all. The beast slave's words also made Xiao Chun and Lin Yun speechless. Do you want to leave this place? He suddenly asked the master of vengeful souls. Hearing that, the master of vengeful souls was stunned at first. Then he smiled bitterly and said, Why wouldn't I? I've been trapped in this godforsaken place day and night. Who would want to stay if they could leave? Although you're weak, you're not completely useless. Fine, I can help you leave, but you and your vengeful souls will have to listen to their orders in the future. What do you think? Saying that, the beast slave pointed at Xiao Chun and Lin Yun casually. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were stunned. What did that mean? The beast slave wanted to subdue those vengeful souls? Looking at their unnatural expressions, the beast slave said with a smile, Although these vengeful souls are pitifully weak, they're still somewhat useful. At least there's a lot of them. If used properly, they can be of some use, at least in saving people this time. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 2775. The beast slave was indeed sincerely thinking for Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. He even took the initiative to subdue these vengeful spirits. Although the beast slave had looked down on these vengeful spirits along the way, as she said, although these vengeful spirits were not strong, they had the advantage in numbers. With the help of these vengeful spirits, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun would at least have an easier time saving people this time. Moreover, these vengeful spirits were trapped here by the primogenitors and suffered the torture of loneliness day and night. In the eyes of the primogenitors, these vengeful spirits were sinners. Naturally, these vengeful spirits did not have the slightest good impression of the origin realm and the primogenitors. It could even be said that their hatred was monstrous. There was already enmity between the two sides. Now that the beast slave took the initiative to recruit them and agreed to let them out, the Lord of the Vengeful Spirits naturally took action. The Lord of the Vengeful Spirits obviously had no reason to refuse being able to leave this damned place. Without much hesitation, he directly agreed. In response, the beast slave said indifferently, Then hand over a part of your soul and let Xiao Chun engrave a brand. Letting Xiao Chun engrave a brand on the Lord of the Vengeful Spirit soul was to prevent the Lord of the Vengeful Spirits from having second thoughts. Moreover, as long as there was a brand, Xiao Chun would be in control of the Lord of the Vengeful Spirit's life at all times. Even though the Lord of the Vengeful Spirits was not weak, Xiao Chun could directly kill him with a thought. Hearing the beast slave's words, the Lord of the Vengeful Spirits was a little hesitant. However, he knew very well that it was definitely impossible to make the beast slave trust him 100%. Engraving a brand was also a necessary means. Therefore, after thinking about it again and again, the Lord of the Vengeful Spirits finally let Shao Chun engrave a brand on his soul. In fact, everything the beast slave did should have been under Qing Zu's watch. However, as early as when they entered the secondary space, the beast slave had already used his own divine ability to cut off the connection between the road of origin and Qing Zu's group. With the strength of the beast slaves, it was not too difficult for them to do this. Therefore, at this moment, Green Ancestor and the others had no idea what Shao Chun and the others were doing on the road of origin. In the origin world, Green Ancestor and the other primogenitor were still sitting opposite each other. However, there was no image in the water mirror in front of them. The connection to the road of origin had been cut off by the beast slave. Qing Zu shook his head and smiled bitterly. This beast slave is still as lawless as ever. These ancient creatures are a threat. Although they seem to be in hiding for so many years, no one knows when they will cause trouble for you. The other primogenitor replied with a smile. The origin world did have a headache dealing with these ancient creatures. It was very difficult to get rid of them. They wanted to rope them in, but these ancient creatures were not willing to listen to the origin world's orders. Therefore, the two sides could only maintain an extremely delicate balance. The origin world had thought about completely eradicating these ancient creatures, but it was too difficult. Even if they succeeded, the origin world would suffer heavy losses. The gains did not make up for the losses. Therefore, the matter was put on hold. However, because of the beast slave's obstruction, Green Ancestor and the others knew nothing about the situation on the road of origin. They also did not know that Shao Chun and the others had already subdued the vengeful spirits in the secondary space. After leaving the secondary space safely, Shao Chun and Lin Yun were in a good mood. With the help of these vengeful spirits, it was indeed good news for them to rescue these people. VP, of course, they had to thank the beast slave for all of this. Without her, Shao Chun and Lin Yun might not have been able to pass through the secondary space so easily, let alone subduing these vengeful spirits. Shao Chun and Lin Yun naturally took the initiative to express their gratitude to the beast slave, but the beast slave just waved her hand and said, "Aren't we friends? Since we are friends, shouldn't we help each other?" Who would have thought that Shao Chun and Lin Yun would meet such a powerful backer on the road of origin? The beast slave had helped Shao Chun and Lin Yun enough. The beast slave did not care about Shao Chun and Lin Yun's gratitude. Or rather, she cared more about the feeling of sincere friendship between friends. Shao Chun and Lin Yun also secretly remembered this friendship in their hearts. After successfully passing through the secondary space, the group continued to set off towards the end of the road of origin. There was basically no danger in the tertiary space. Of course, this was still under the guidance of the beast slave. Unlike the primary space and the secondary space, there was no life in the tertiary space. Instead, it was a huge maze. At the same time, all spiritual chi and spiritual power were prohibited in the tertiary space. As soon as they entered the tertiary space, Shao Chun and Lin Yun felt that the spiritual power in their bodies could not be used directly, as if it was sealed by some kind of force. In this tertiary space, Shao Chun and Lin Yun were like ordinary people. Except for their strong, physical bodies, they could not use any other means. The spiritual power in their bodies was like a jar of stagnant water that could not be used at all. The huge maze in front of them was pitch black, and even their divine sense could not penetrate it. How to pass through this maze was the biggest test in the tertiary space. Of course, the beast slave was naturally not affected in the tertiary space. Because she was originally a fierce beast, there was no spiritual power in her body at all. Therefore, the tertiary space had no effect on the beast slave at all. The beast slave was still in her peak state, and the power of chi and blood in her body could not be sealed by the tertiary space. This maze was formed naturally. It is said that there are 81 paths, but only one of them leads to a life, and the rest lead to a dead end. Once you set foot on a dead end, you will die for sure, no matter how powerful you are. You will eventually be trapped in the maze and die. While walking into the maze, the beast slave said faintly, "This maze was not the work of the ancestors, but was formed naturally. The restrictions in it were also limited by the laws of heaven and earth. Therefore, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun could not use the slightest spiritual power in their bodies at all. After all, even a world lord could not be above the laws of heaven and earth. What's more, this was the road of origin, the origin of heaven and earth. The laws of heaven and earth were stronger and could not be suppressed at all. Seeing the beast slave walk into the maze casually, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun followed behind him. Then, Lin Yun asked curiously, "Beast slave, have you walked through this maze? Do you know the routes? Please collect, vote, recommend." Chapter 2776. The beast slave was as relaxed as if he was wandering around, without the slightest nervousness of entering the maze. In this regard, Lin Yun asked curiously. Moreover, since the beast slave was an ancient creature, it wasn't strange for him to know the route of this maze. The beast slave was as relaxed as if he was wandering around, without the slightest nervousness of entering the maze. In this regard, Lin Yun also asked curiously. Moreover, since the beast slave was an ancient creature, it wasn't strange for him to know the route of this maze. However, upon hearing this, the beast slave replied without hesitation, "I don't know. I've only been to this maze a few times. How would I have the time to remember those routes?" "You don't know the route?" Upon hearing this, Lin Yun was taken aback. However, at this moment, the three of them had already entered the maze. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were speechless. "Since you don't know the route, why are you so relaxed? Aren't you afraid of being trapped here?" There were 81 paths, and only one was the path of life. The rest were all paths of death. Once one stepped on a path of death, one would definitely die. One could only be trapped and die in this huge maze. This was what the beast slave had said just now. But now, the beast slave actually entered the maze unprepared. It could even be said that he didn't care at all. Moreover, he didn't know the route at all. This made Lin Yun and Xiao Chun speechless. Isn't he a little too careless? But soon, the beast slave gave them an answer. After entering the maze, the beast slave didn't go along the route. Instead, he came directly to a wall and said with a chuckle, "Who said that we have to remember the route in a maze? Don't you know that a straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points?" Upon hearing this, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were taken aback. At the same time, the beast slave clenched his fist and threw a punch at the wall in front of him. With a loud bang, the wall was directly punched through by the beast slave. Then, the beast slave turned around and smiled at the two of them. "Let's go. There's no need to remember the route at all. Just walk in a straight line." Upon hearing the beast slave's words and seeing the wall that had been punched through, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were speechless. So this was the correct way for the boss to pass through the maze. It was indeed simple and crude, which was enviable. However, only beast slaves could use such a method. After all, she was a ferocious beast without spiritual power, so she wasn't affected at all in the tertiary space. If it were Xiao Chun or Lin Yun, they wouldn't have been able to break the wall. Even if they had spirit power, they might not be able to break the wall, not to mention that they couldn't use the spirit power in their bodies. Under the guidance of the beast slave, the two of them quickly passed through the gap in the wall and went deep into the labyrinth. After the three of them passed through, Xiao Chun deliberately looked back and saw that the wall that had been blasted open by the beast slave was quickly restored to its original state. This labyrinth actually had a self-healing ability. It was indeed extraordinary. What happened next was very simple. The beast slave also showed Xiao Chun and Lin Yun what the simplest and most direct method was, and that was to push forward. It didn't matter whether you lived or died. When it came to the beast slave, he could only walk his own path and push forward. Seeing the beast slave punch through the wall in front of him, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were completely numb. It was the first time they had seen someone use such a method to pass through a labyrinth. There was no need to think about anything else. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun only needed to follow the beast slave with peace of mind. The beast slave would naturally take care of everything else. It didn't take long for the group to pass through the labyrinth in the tertiary space using this method. However, after the last wall was punched through by the beast slave, the three of them finally saw the exit of the tertiary space. After successfully passing through the labyrinth in the tertiary space, the beast slave sighed and complained, "Phew, it's really similar. I really don't know what this labyrinth is for." Hearing that, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun didn't know what to say at all. Tired already? It had to be noted that the three of them didn't even need an hour to pass through this labyrinth. If they were tired, what would the others do? Given the size of this labyrinth, even those who remember the route would need at least several hours to pass through it, let alone those who didn't know the route. Their chances of passing through it were probably low. On the other hand, the beast slave actually felt tired even though he had pushed his way through. This made Xiao Chun and Lin Yun unconsciously feel a strong sense of frustration. This was what it meant to be infuriated when compared to others. After successfully passing through the tertiary space without any mishaps and leaving the tertiary space, the beast slave slightly restrained the smile on his face and said seriously, "We're going to see that old guy again. Be careful later. That old guy's character isn't very good." In the face of other things, the beast slave could appear indifferent or even contemptuous, but when facing another ancient creature, the beast slave naturally couldn't let his guard down. After all, the other party was an existence of the same level as him. Moreover, among the many ancient creatures, the beast slave should be the most familiar with the old guy in the fourth space. After all, they all lived on the road of origin, and it was inevitable that they would meet on a daily basis. Therefore, the beast slave was very clear about the old guy's temper and strength. Moreover, as early as the very beginning, the beast slave had bluntly told Xiao Chun and Lin Yun that even with her strength, if they really fought, the odds of winning were only 50%. Although the three of them agreed to the suggestion of roping in the old guy, no one was sure whether it would succeed or not. Therefore, the beast slave still reminded Xiao Chun and Lin Yun not to let their guard down. That old guy's character was very strange. Hearing this, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun naturally nodded in response. Then, the three of them entered the fourth space together. As soon as they entered, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were stunned. In front of them was a scene of singing birds and fragrant flowers. Birds were flying in the sky, and there was a green river flowing by. White clouds were floating in the sky, and the wind was gentle and the sun was bright. If it weren't for the fact that this was the road of origin, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun would have thought that this was a paradise. The scenery was very beautiful, but the most important thing was that the fourth space gave people the feeling that it was quiet and peaceful. Moreover, living here, it was as if they couldn't feel the passage of time. Everything was as beautiful as a painting, giving people a feeling of eternity. It was as if there would be no change even if thousands of years passed. Compared with the previous three spaces, the fourth space was like a paradise, and this was the end of the road of origin. As long as they passed through the fourth space, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun would be able to enter the origin realm. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were attracted by the scenery in front of them, but the beast slave was not affected at all. Instead, he took the initiative to say, "Old guy, don't you know how to receive the guests? Is this how you treat your guests? I think you've lost your mind in seclusion. You don't even know the ways of the world. Please add, please vote, please recommend." Chapter 2777. The beast slave obviously had no interest in the beautiful scenery of the fourth space. Moreover, he had been to the fourth space many times before, so he had long lost interest in it. As soon as the beast slave finished speaking, an old man in a dark gray robe appeared out of thin air in front of the three of them. The beast slave obviously had no interest in the beautiful scenery of the fourth space. Moreover, he had been to the fourth space many times before, so he had long lost interest in it. As soon as the beast slave finished speaking, an old man in a dark gray robe appeared out of thin air in front of the three of them. He looked very ordinary and didn't have any terrifying aura. As soon as the old man appeared, the beast slave curled his lips in dissatisfaction. "Old man, you're finally willing to come out." In the face of the beast slave's words, the old man didn't speak. Instead, he looked at Xiao Chun and Lin Yun without the slightest fluctuation of emotion in his eyes. He looked extremely calm and withdrew his gaze after just a glance. Then, he looked at the beast slave and spoke. "Are you courting death by bringing two people here?" The old man's character was indeed nothing like what the beast slave had described. He had once said that he would not let anyone pass through the road of origin. Therefore, he didn't even bother to ask Xiao Chun and Lin Yun the purpose of their visit. He spoke directly and mercilessly. In this regard, the beast slave seemed to have expected this, and he smiled unhurriedly. "I knew you would say this, old man. You only know how to meditate in seclusion all day long. For this reason, you didn't hesitate to hide in the road of origin and completely cut off contact with the outside world. So, after so many years, have you made any progress? Do you want to try?" The beast slave spoke with a strong sense of sarcasm, and the old man didn't budge an inch. Hearing this, the beast slave smiled contemptuously. "Forget it. We're here to talk business today. I think you've really become stupid. You have no idea what's going on in the outside world." The beast slave wasn't here to pick a fight today. He hadn't forgotten the purpose of their visit. As soon as he finished speaking, without waiting for the old man's reply, the beast slave turned to Xiao Chun and Lin Yun and said, "This guy is called Shi Song, and he has a very strange personality. Elder Shi." Hearing the beast slave's introduction, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun hurriedly cupped their hands and saluted. The beast slaves could not give Shi Song face, but Xiao Chun and Lin Yun could not. After all, Shi Song was an ancient life form with great strength. As for Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, Shi Song did not pay any attention to them from beginning to end, and the beast slave also very intuitively walked straight inside. As he walked, he said, "Let's find a place to talk. I have something to tell you." The beast slave knew Shi Song's stubborn character. He was simply like a rock. No, he was originally a rock. In the end, the four of them sat on a stone bench outside Shi Song's residence. Shi Song said coldly, "If you have something to say, then say it. Once you're done, then get lost. And you too, you better leave quickly. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." Shi Song didn't show any mercy. Regarding this, the beast slave curled his lips and didn't want to bicker with him. He already knew this old thing's character and didn't want to bicker with him. Glancing at Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, the beast slave said, "Speak. Tell this old thing about the outside world." The beast slave let Xiao Chun and Lin Yun speak. Regarding this, the two of them looked at each other. In the end, Xiao Chun spoke about the changes in the outside world. Because he wanted a rope in Shi Song, Xiao Chun spoke about the changes in the outside world and the origin world's plan to create a new world in great detail. Of course, he didn't exaggerate anything intentionally. After all, it would be too naive to try to deceive an ancient creature like Shi Song when interacting with him. It was almost impossible to deceive an old monster like Shi Song. On the contrary, it might backfire. It was better to tell the truth. After listening to Xiao Chen's narration, Shi Song's expression became unsightly. No one knew what he was thinking. After Xiao Chen finished speaking, Shi Song spoke coldly. "These idiots from the origin world are getting more and more daring. They actually want to create a new world. They simply don't know what they're talking about. Do they want to act on behalf of the heavens?" As an ancient creature transformed from a divine stone, Shi Song respected the heavens and the earth very much. In his eyes, the heavens and the earth were his parents, and he was born from the heavens and the earth. Now, the actions of the ancestors from the origin world were already acting on behalf of the heavens. Creating a new world had always been something that only the heavens and the earth could do. However, the ancestors from the origin world actually wanted to create a new world through Shi Song. In Shi Song's eyes, this matter could be said to be both laughable and infuriating. It was laughable because they didn't know their own strength, and infuriating because they looked down on the heavens and the earth. Seeing Shi Song's reaction, the beast slave didn't say anything. However, there was a trace of smile in his eyes. After all, Shi Song's reaction was good news for Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. The angrier Sher Song was towards the origin world, the more likely it was that he would be roped in. Xiao Chun and Lin Yin knew this. After cursing angrily, Sher Song looked at Xiao Chun and asked indifferently, "Kid, did you exaggerate or deceive me just now?" "Old Sher, everything I said was true. I didn't exaggerate at all." Hearing this, Xiao Chun answered without hesitation. Moreover, Xiao Chun was telling the truth. He didn't exaggerate at all. Hearing Xiao Chun's promise, Sher Song nodded. He stood up and said with a cold face, "Those idiots in the origin world, it seems they've been quiet for too long. I'm going to the origin world to ask them. I'm going to make them give me an explanation." Sher Song was not only stubborn, but also hot-tempered. As soon as he got the news, he wanted to go to the origin world to question the ancestors. However, before he could move, the beast slave next to him pulled him back. Seeing that, Sher Song was suspicious. "Beast slave, what do you mean? One idiot. What's the use of going to the origin world now? When the time comes, not only will you fail to accomplish your task, but you will also be implicated." "Umph. Those old fellows from the origin world dare to kill me? Why wouldn't they dare? Are you stronger than the ancestors?" Hearing this, Sher Song fell silent. Indeed, he wasn't as strong as the ancestors. Seeing this, the beast's slave continued. "In the past, the ancestors didn't kill you because it was meaningless. They didn't want to waste their efforts to kill you. However, it's different now. The origin world is going to create a new world. If you go to the origin world alone, do you believe that you won't be able to leave alive? Even if they have to pay a price, the ancestors will definitely make you stay in the origin world forever." The beast's slave said bluntly. Sher Song fell into silence when he heard that because his reason told him that the beast's slave wasn't exaggerating at all. It was something that could really happen. One should never think too highly of the primogenitors of the origin world. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 2778. Don't ever underestimate the origin world. This was something all the ancient creatures knew. In the eyes of ordinary people, the origin world was perhaps a place of faith, a place where gods lived. Living bodhisattvas who bemoaned the state of the universe lived there. Don't ever underestimate the origin world. This was something all the ancient creatures knew. In the eyes of ordinary people, the origin world was perhaps a place of faith, a place where gods lived. Living bodhisattvas who bemoaned the state of the universe lived there. However, as the ancient creatures who knew the origin world better, they knew that it wasn't as simple as it seemed on the surface. This didn't mean that the primogenitors of the origin world were hypocrites. There was no doubt that they cared about all living beings. However, besides that, they had their own plans and thoughts. If it was any other time, it wouldn't be a problem for Sher Song to go to the origin world. However, if Sher Song still rushed into the origin world at this time, he wouldn't have a good ending. The founding of a new world was something that the ancestors had been preparing for a long time. Of course, such a big movement couldn't be done on a whim. Even if it was the origin world, it had to be prepared for a long time before it could be built. Since they were fully prepared, if someone jumped out to stop them, it would be the same as insisting on the ancestors, rebelling against the origin world, and openly challenging the origin world's rule over this world. This was something that the ancestors wouldn't allow. Even the ancient creatures couldn't cross this bottom line. Therefore, if Sher Song crossed this bottom line, the ancestors would do everything they could to eliminate Sher Song and anyone who stood in their way, even if they had to pay the price. Being decisive was a trait that a ruler had to possess. The ancestors undoubtedly possessed this trait. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to rule this world for so many years. They could turn a blind eye at ordinary times, but when it came to a critical moment, the ancestors wouldn't show any mercy. Sher Song returned to his seat under the beast slave's persuasion. However, his face was extremely ugly. He snorted coldly. "Umph. Even so, I won't let them succeed so easily." Sher Song was resolute in opposing the creation of this bullshit new world because of his respect for the world. The beast's slave couldn't help but laugh. "That's true, but what can you do alone? Do you think you can fight against the entire origin world by yourself? Fighting against the origin world by himself was indeed a fool's dream. Even Sher Song was no exception. However, Sher Song retorted coldly, "Then what do you think I should do? They are Lin Yun and Xiao Chun. They are the world lords of the two universes outside. They also oppose the creation of the new world. Outside the origin world, they have formed an alliance with the other universes, but Sher Song took the opportunity to introduce Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. Hearing this, Sher Song glanced at the two of them. This time, there was a trace of friendliness in his eyes and a trace of coldness. However, Sher Song still spoke harshly. "Beast slave, you aren't joking with me, are you?" Sher Song didn't conceal the contempt in his words at all. However, what he said was the truth. It was simply ridiculous for Xiao Chun and Lin Yun to fight against the origin world. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun didn't refute him. The beast slave didn't make a fuss about it and continued to speak. "It's true that Xiao Chun and the others aren't strong enough to fight against the origin world. But in this world, who can fight against the origin world?" Jing Ai Shu continued. "So, if we want to stop the creation of the new world, we must unite all possible forces. You can't do it alone. Xiao Chun and the others can't do it either. But what if we unite? They're roping in other universes and other ancient creatures. When the time comes, won't our chances be much higher?" The beast slave finally got to the point. He wanted to win over Sher Song. They had to unite if they wanted to fight against the origin world. Sher Song was stunned when he heard the beast slave's words. Then, he glanced at the beast slave indifferently and said, "I'm afraid that's why you're here. So what? You won't lose anything. Moreover, this is the only way to stop the origin world. I think you don't want to see the new world appear, do you?" Sher Song admitted generously. After all, they had the same goal. So, there was a possibility for them to unite. No one would suffer a loss. Moreover, it would be a situation where both sides would benefit and both sides would lose if they joined forces. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun couldn't interrupt the conversation between the beast slave and Sher Song. Sher Song fell silent when he heard the beast slave's words. To be honest, as an ancient creature, Sher Song had never cooperated with anyone, let alone formed an alliance. After a while, Sher Song said, "But even so, it's impossible for us to fight against the origin world. Who says we're the only ones? Look, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun will continue to rope in other universes and expand the team. The two of us can go find other old fellows. At that time, we'll gather the strength of many ancient creatures and universes. Do you think we still can't fight against the origin world?" The beast slave voiced his idea, and this idea was the most reliable one at the moment. At the same time, it was also the only feasible idea. Regarding this, Sher Song did not refute, because there was simply no reason to refute. What the beast slave said was right. This was currently the best method. There was no other. After careful consideration, it was naturally easier to form an alliance since they had a common goal. In the end, Sher Song nodded and said under the gaze of Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, "Okay, we'll do as you say." Sher Song nodded in agreement. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were in disbelief when they heard that. Who would have thought that this matter would be so simple and completed smoothly? Sher Song also directly chose to join the alliance. With Sher Song's participation, the beast slave, and two ancient creatures, the strength of Xiao Chen's alliance naturally improved by leaps and bounds. It was completely different from before. Sher Song was overjoyed, but he also put forward his own request. Moreover, it was to Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. "Don't be happy too early. Although I've agreed to join, you'll naturally have to deal with the trivial matters, including the matter of roping in other universes. Don't even think about asking me to do it. I'm only in charge of fighting and roping in other ancient creatures. Moreover, I can't guarantee that I'll succeed in roping in others." Sher Song had always been very direct, and Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were already used to it. Xiao Chun immediately nodded and said, "Of course. Senior, don't worry. We definitely won't let you worry about those trivial matters. We'll deal with them. Please collect, vote, recommend." Chapter 2779. Sure Song agreed to join the alliance, but he wasn't interested in those trivial matters. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had expected this, so they agreed without hesitation. Sure Song agreed to join the alliance, but he wasn't interested in those trivial matters. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had expected this, so they agreed without hesitation. Moreover, in addition to ignoring the miscellaneous matters, Sure Song had also agreed to help Xiao Chun and the others win over other ancient creatures. This was another piece of good news. At the same time, it also proved that Sure Song had sincerely agreed to join the alliance without any reservations. This made Xiao Chun and the others feel even more relieved. In fact, it wasn't strange that Sure Song joined the alliance. The main reason was Sure Song's feelings for this world. Sure Song was transformed from a divine stone. He was the father of heaven and the mother of earth. The actions of the primogenitors were akin to blaspheming Sure Song's parents. Anyone would be furious if their parents were humiliated. The matter was resolved smoothly. After Sure Song nodded in agreement, the beast man said, "Don't worry. Since you've agreed, let's do the first thing." The first thing? Yes, their families have been kidnapped by the primogenitors of the origin world. I think you can guess the reason. So, the first thing we need to do is to rescue their families. Rescuing Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, Dongfang Yin, and Mo He, and Jesus' families was the purpose of Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's trip. Hearing the beast slave's words, Sure Song nodded. Sure Song had guessed why the primogenitors wanted to kidnap Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's families. Moreover, it was in line with the character of those old fellows from the Dark Age. The Righteous Path Alliance might not be able to do such a thing, but the few old fellows from the Dark Age were completely capable of it. Immediately, Sure Song cursed fiercely. These old fellows are becoming more and more despicable. Sure Song's influence on the primordial realm had dropped to the freezing point. He hated the primordial realm to the bone. When they saw this, the four of them started to discuss the rescue plan. Of course, the first step was naturally to enter the origin world. If they couldn't even enter the origin world, then everything they said would be useless. Currently, it wasn't difficult for Xiao Chun and Lin Yun to enter the origin world. However, Sure Song didn't agree with the four of them entering the origin world. The reason was simple. If they were discovered by the primogenitors as soon as they entered the origin world, they would be in a passive position. No matter what they did, they would be exposed to the primogenitors. Therefore, the most difficult thing was to sneak into the origin world without being noticed by the ancestors. That way, Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others would have more space to control. Moreover, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun didn't even know where their families were in the origin world. It should be noted that the origin world wasn't small. Moreover, besides a few places, there were many places that even Lin Yun hadn't been to. In the past, every time Lin Yun went to the origin world, she was active in a few specific places. Besides those few places, Lin Yun knew almost nothing about the rest of the origin world. Although Beast Slave and Sure Song knew more about the origin world, they couldn't take a single step if they didn't know where Lin Yun and Xiao Chen's families were imprisoned. Therefore, the first step was how to enter the origin world without being discovered by the primogenitors. This was the most important problem they had to consider. Xiao Chen raised this question, but Sure Song said confidently, "That's not a problem. Just leave it to me." With Beast Slave and Sure Song's help, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's confidence was greatly boosted. If the two of them had come to the origin world with the determination to die, then they were now confident. Therefore, Xiao Chun had carefully thought of many feasible methods. However, these methods could only be carried out under the premise that they could enter the origin world without being noticed. Originally, they thought that the first step would be extremely difficult. However, they didn't expect Sure Song to have a solution. Moreover, it seemed that Sure Song was very confident. "I've been in the fourth space all year round. In fact, even the primogenitors don't know that I've secretly opened a passage in the fourth space that connects to the origin world. Only I know about this passage. The others, including the primogenitors, don't know about it." Shortly after, Sure Song gave him the answer. So it was like that. If it was true, everything would be easy. Through Sure Song's passage, the four of them could secretly enter the origin world. At that time, they could carry out the rescue plan. Hearing Shi Song's words, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were overjoyed. This was indeed great news for them. Without wasting any time, the four of them quickly entered the secret space passage under Shi Song's lead. This time, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had indeed met a benefactor in the road of origin. Needless to say, the bee slaves had helped Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. It was basically because of the bee slaves that they could pass through the road of origin so easily. As for Shi Song, although he had just agreed to join the alliance, he immediately gave a big gift to Xiao Chun and Lin Yun to solve their urgent problem. Not only did they increase their strength, but it also gave Xiao Chun and Lin Yun a lot more confidence in fighting against the origin world in the future. After all, they had finally found a way to fight against the origin world. Although it was still not as good as the origin world, at least they were not completely helpless. Very smoothly, the four of them passed through Shi Song's space passage and arrived at the origin world without any hindrance. Walking out of the space passage, they were surrounded by a valley with a river in the valley. The mountains on both sides were like two sides of the river, and the river flowed through the valley. The air was filled with dense spirit qi. Even the river beneath his feet was formed by the condensation of spirit qi. This river water, it didn't take long before he realized that it was made up of spirit liquid. Spirit liquid. If it were in the outside world, even a drop of it would be priceless. But here, an ordinary river was actually formed by the convergence of spiritual liquid. This was simply an eye-opener for both Xiao Chun and Li Yun. Needless to say, it was Xiao Chun's first time entering the origin world. As for Lin Yun, although she had been to the origin world many times before, she had never seen such a scene. Looking at the two of them who were surprised, Shi Song said, as if there was no one else around, "This is the east of the origin world. It's considered the territory of the alliance of righteous sections. Don't be so excited. Let's find a place to stay first, and then investigate the whereabouts of your family. Before we rescue them, we need to at least know where they are. Please collect, vote, recommend." Chapter 2780. Finding out the whereabouts of Qin Shu, Lu Bingning, and the others was the top priority now. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun naturally didn't object when they heard Shi Song's words, so they nodded in agreement. Finding out the whereabouts of Qin Shu, Lu Bingning, and the others was the top priority now. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun naturally didn't object when they heard Shi Song's words, so they nodded in agreement. Compared to Shi Song and the bee slave, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's understanding of the origin world was too shallow. It could even be said that they knew nothing about it, including Lin Yun. For example, Lin Yun had never been to this place before. Under Shi Song's lead, Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others quickly left the valley. As they hurried through the origin world, Xiao Chun finally understood why the four of them longed for this place. It was because the origin world didn't just have beautiful scenery. The heaven and earth spirit energy was terrifyingly dense. Moreover, the dense heaven and earth spirit energy didn't change because of the changes in the region. To put it bluntly, the heaven and earth spirit energy in the entire origin world was so dense that it was comparable to any cultivation secret realm in the outside world. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the entire origin world was an enormous cultivation secret realm. This also proved why the origin world, as the land of origin, was so powerful. However, Shi Song and the beast slave didn't care about the dense heaven and earth spirit energy at all. The beast slave even took the initiative to speak. There's no need to be so surprised. With your cultivation bases as world lords, the heaven and earth spirit energy isn't of much help to you. No matter how dense the heaven and earth spirit energy is, it's almost useless to you now. The heaven and earth spirit energy was indeed a necessity for cultivators. As everyone knew, the denser the heaven and earth spirit energy was, the more it could help cultivators. However, when one's strength reached a certain level, the effect or importance of the heaven and earth spirit energy would be greatly reduced. As world lords, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's desire for the heaven and earth spirit energy was indeed not so exaggerated. After all, no matter how much heaven and earth spirit energy they absorbed, it wouldn't be of much use to their strength improvement. It was impossible for them to break through to the World Lord realm directly. Compared to the heaven and earth spirit energy, perhaps the origin energy was what Xiao Chun and Lin Yun needed the most. After all, origin energy could truly improve their strength. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. As for the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, the greatest effect it could have on the two of them was probably to help them recover quickly. Even so, Xiao Chun was still shocked by the density of the origin world's spirit energy. Lin Yun was still all right. After all, she had been to the origin world before, unlike Xiao Chun, who had never been here before. Under Shi Song's lead, the four of them soon arrived at a small village. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that it was a village because there were only a few dozen families here. There weren't even city walls around it. It was just a village instead of a city. There aren't many residents in the origin world. Therefore, there aren't any cities in the origin world. Basically, it's just a village like this. Most of these villages are inhabited by people who have passed through the road of origin and settled down in the origin world and their descendants, Shi Song said faintly while walking slowly into the village. Unlike the other universes, although the origin world wasn't small, there weren't many people because ordinary creatures couldn't enter the origin world at all. The population of the entire origin world came from two sources. One was the people who were proactively received by the primogenitors when the origin world was first formed. The other was the people who had passed through the road of origin and settled down in the origin world. The main sources of population came from these two sources. However, no matter how they came to the origin world, only a small number of people came to the origin world. Therefore, such a small number of people didn't need cities. Basically, villages formed the current origin world. On the other hand, the people living in the origin world seemed to be living a life isolated from the outside world. Although they had entered the origin world, it was very difficult for them to leave the origin world and contact the outside world without the consent of the primogenitor. After listening to Shi Song's introduction of the origin world, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun also observed everything around them. As they observed, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun discovered that world lords could be seen everywhere in this small village. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had already seen no less than 10 world lords along the way, and this was just a village in the origin world. There were only a few dozen families in the village, but Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had already seen more than 10 world lords. It was absolutely impossible to have so many experts in the outside world. In the outside world, world lords who ruled a part of the universe could be seen everywhere in the origin world. This gave Xiao Chun and Lin Yun a clearer understanding of the strength of the origin world. Seeing their astonishment, the beast slave said indifferently, "There's nothing strange about it. The origin energy in the origin world is beyond your imagination. In addition to the rich heaven and earth spirit qi, it's not strange for them to break through and become world lords. Moreover, those who can live in the origin world are all extremely talented and powerful existences. Therefore, it's normal for there to be so many experts in the origin world." The origin energy in the origin world was different from the other universes in the outside world. In the outside world, the origin energy was extremely scarce. Perhaps each universe only had enough origin energy to give birth to one world lord. However, it was completely different in the origin world. The origin energy in the origin world wasn't scarce. It was even more abundant than all the universes in the outside world combined. With so much origin energy, it wasn't strange for there to be so many world lords in the origin world. It could be said that the origin world had all the advantages because it was favored by the heaven and earth. It was obvious that the heaven and earth favored the origin world. While listening to the beast slave and Shi Song's explanation, the four of them came to the center of the village. Then, Shi Song said faintly, "I know someone here. We can ask him first." Shi Song naturally didn't bring Xiao Chun and Lin Yun here for no reason. Song knew someone in the village, and he could ask him about the situation of the origin world. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun naturally didn't have any objections. They weren't familiar with the origin world, so they could only listen to Song and the beast slaves arrangement. After all, they knew the origin world better. They walked all the way to a wooden house in the village. The house was very simple, and there was nothing noteworthy about it. Song took the initiative to knock on the door. Not long after, the door to the courtyard was opened, and an old man walked out from the courtyard, begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. End of chapter. Chapter 2781. This old man was someone Song knew. However, when facing Song, the old man did not have the joy of seeing a friend at all. His face was indifferent, and it could even be said that he was emotionless. This old man was someone Song knew. However, when facing Song, the old man did not have the joy of seeing a friend at all. His face was indifferent, and it could even be said that he was emotionless. Looking at the old man in front of them, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun frowned slightly. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed that everyone in the village was like this all the way. They were emotionless, as if they were indifferent to everything. Logically speaking, when facing outsiders like Xiao Chun and the others, normal people should feel strange and even take the initiative to talk to them or ask about their identities and intentions. However, since the four of them had entered the village, no one had approached them to ask about anything. The villagers were not surprised at all when they saw Xiao Chun and the others. They were still minding their own business. They did not notice this before, but now, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun felt strange the more they thought about it. Something seemed to be wrong. Not only Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, but even Song also felt strange when he saw the old man. This old man was not an ancient life form. Instead, he was a world lord who entered the origin world through the Road of Origin a long time ago. When he passed through the Road of Origin, he met Song. The two of them had similar personalities, so they naturally became friends. Originally, Song came to find the old man, hoping to learn about the recent events in the origin world through him. However, he did not expect that the old man would give Song such a strange feeling. He was completely different from before, as if he was a different person. "Old man, don't you recognize me?" Looking at the old man in front of him, Song took the initiative to ask. Hearing this, the old man's eyes were dull, and his voice was emotionless. "How can I not recognize you?" The old man recognized Song, but he didn't seem like he was meeting an old friend at all. Moreover, he didn't seem sad or happy at all. Regarding this, Song frowned and followed closely. Without any explanation, he took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of the old man. He reached out his hand and tried to grab the old man. Seeing Song's action, the old man naturally reacted immediately and wanted to resist. However, with the old man's strength, how could he be a match for Song? He easily subdued the old man. Then, Song carefully checked the old man's condition. Song's face instantly turned gloomy. After a while, Song released the old man and said with an ugly expression, "His 7 emotions and 6 desires have been erased." It was certain that the old man's 7 emotions and 6 desires had been forcibly erased by someone. Of course, it was needless to say who did it. Who else could it be other than the primogenitors? After hearing Song's words, Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the beast slave's expressions quickly turned solemn. The beast slave even said coldly, "It seems like the people in the origin world have all been erased by those old fellows." If the primogenitors of the origin world wanted to create a new world, it wasn't strange that they started from the origin world. Therefore, the beast slave quickly guessed that everyone in the origin world had most likely had their 7 emotions and 6 desires forcibly erased by the primogenitors. Therefore, it wasn't strange that the old man would be so indifferent when he saw Song. Without 7 emotions and 6 desires, he naturally wouldn't remember his feelings for Song. Therefore, even though he knew Song, the old man had always been so indifferent. I'm reading. Faced with the facts before his eyes, Song was even more convinced that what Shao Chun and Lin Yun had said was true. After all, if the origin world was like this, then what happened in the outside world couldn't be fake. A wisp of anger flashed through Song's eyes. He glanced at his former good friend and didn't say anything. Instead, he turned around and said to Shao Chun and Lin Yun, "Let's head directly to the Alliance of Righteous Sex. I have a way." Since their 7 emotions and 6 desires have been erased, it was naturally impossible to take them back. Therefore, Song suggested that they head directly to the Alliance of Righteous Sex to look for the whereabouts of Qin Shu, Lu Bingning, and the others. Shao Chun and Lin Yun nodded and didn't say anything. Song took a deep look at the old man and saw that the old man's expression didn't change at all. It was as if he wasn't affected by Song at all. Right now, the old man was no different from a walking corpse. Song didn't say anything about his good friend's current state. He just sighed helplessly and then left with Shao Chun and Lin Yun. Qin's 7 emotions and 6 desires had been forcibly erased. Even Song couldn't help him recover. It could be said that this old man and the others in the origin world had become the walking corpses without emotions, personalities, or thoughts. This was the new world that the primogenitors wanted. There was no war or struggle. However, looking at the current origin world, was this new world really that good? Everyone was living like walking corpses. This world had no vitality at all. It was just like hell. They didn't expect the origin world to become like this. With no other choice, Shao Chun and the others headed directly to the Alliance of Righteous Sex. While Shao Chun and the others were heading to the Alliance of Righteous Sex, Lu Bingning, Qin Shu, and the others who were trapped in the green bamboo garden tried countless ways to escape. However, after countless attempts, they realized that everything they did was in vain. No matter what method they used, they couldn't pass through the bamboo forest in front of them. They were completely trapped inside. At the same time, Green Ancestor and the other primogenitor of the Alliance of Righteous Sex removed the water mirror. Due to the beast slave's obstruction, they couldn't spy on Shao Chun and Lin Yun's actions at all. Green Ancestor wasn't too angry about this. He just shook his head and smiled bitterly. The other primogenitor said, "They can't really pass through the road of origin, right? It's impossible. That old man Song is famous for his stubbornness. He won't let them pass through the road of origin even with the help of the beast slaves. Moreover, if they really pass through the road of origin and enter the origin world, how could you and I not notice it?" Green Ancestor was sure that Shao Chun and Lin Yun didn't enter the origin world because Green Ancestor would be able to sense them as long as they entered the origin world. However, from the beginning to the end, no one had entered the origin world. Naturally, Green Ancestor guessed that Shao Chun and the others might have been stopped by Song. After all, Song was in the 4th space of the origin world. Moreover, he had already said that he wouldn't let anyone pass through the road of origin. As a result, Shao Chun and Lin Yun had almost no chance of passing through the road of origin, even with the help of the beast slaves. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 2782. Qin Zhu thought that Shao Chun and Lin Yun had no chance to pass through the road of origin. Of course, this was under the condition that Song had not agreed to form an alliance with them. But now, Song had formed an alliance with Shao Chun and the others, so the situation was different. Qin Zhu thought that Shao Chun and Lin Yun had no chance to pass through the road of origin. Of course, this was under the condition that Song had not agreed to form an alliance with them. But now, Song had formed an alliance with Shao Chun and the others, so the situation was different. Of course, Qin Zhu had not guessed this. After all, even though he was an ancestor, he could not predict the future. Therefore, he did not know that Shao Chun and Lin Yun had already entered the origin world, and they had used Song's secret space passage. Song had not told anyone about the secret space passage. Even Qin Zhu and the other ancestors did not know about it. Qin Zhu did not take Shao Chun and Lin Yun seriously. After all, with their strength, they were not a threat to the origin world. Looking at the origin world, world lords like Lin Yun and Shao Chun could be found everywhere. Therefore, Qingzu naturally did not value Xiao Chun and Lin Yun too much. The only problem was the ancient creatures like the beast slaves. After all, not only were they powerful, but they also didn't listen to the Origin World's order. They always did whatever they wanted, which was a threat to the Origin World. It seems that it's time to deal with these ancient-era creatures, Qingzu said faintly as he thought about it. Hearing this, the ancestor sitting opposite Qingzu nodded and said, "That's right. These ancient-era creatures are a big threat. But let's wait until the new world is formed. At that time, we'll be free to deal with them." Now, all the ancestors were busy dealing with the new world. As for the beast slaves, Shi Song, and the other ancient-era creatures, they were not free to deal with them. After all, these ancient-era creatures were not to be trifled with. Even with the Origin World's strength, they had to be careful when dealing with them. Therefore, they could only let them go for now and make a decision after the new world was settled. Hearing this, Qingzu nodded and then stood up with a smile. It's really an eventful time. Well, let's follow the plan. After saying that, Qingzu and the other primogenitor disappeared from where they stood. In an instant, the two of them had disappeared as well. In the bamboo garden, Lu Bingning, Qin Shu, and the others had tried many ways, but they could not break through the bamboo forest. They had tried everything they could, but the bamboo forest seemed to be impervious to fire and water. It was not affected at all. Just as everyone was sitting in the courtyard at their wits' end, Qingzu's figure appeared out of thin air. Looking at the dejected crowd, Qingzu did not get angry at their previous actions. Instead, he said with a faint smile on his face, "What's wrong? Are you tired?" From the beginning to the end, Lu Bingning and Qin Shui's every move was under Qingzu's observation. Qingzu could be said to be very clear about what they did after he left. Lu Bingning, Qin Shu, and the others did not answer. They just looked at Qingzu coldly. Qingzu replied indifferently, "Don't worry and stay here. I won't hurt you. However, you don't have to think about escaping. You can't get out of my bamboo forest." Qingzu disappeared again. He did not stay for long. He wasn't worried that Qin Shu, Lu Bingning, and the rest would be able to leave. Even a world lord wouldn't be able to break into his green bamboo garden, let alone them. Therefore, Qingzu did not need to stay here. No matter how hard Lu Bingning, Qin Shu, and the others tried, they could not break through his bamboo forest. They would calm down when they understood. Qingzu was not in a hurry. Seeing Qingzu leave again, Qin Shu, Lu Bingning, and the other ladies clenched their teeth. Their eyes were extremely cold. Although they were furious, there was nothing they could do. Lu Bingning, Qin Shu, and the others were completely trapped. They could not do anything about this seemingly ordinary bamboo forest. At the same time, Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others rushed to the alliance of the righteous sects under the lead of Shi Song and the beast slave. From afar, the mountain range where the alliance of the righteous sects was located was like a fairyland. It was surrounded by clouds and mist, making people yearn for it. They did not approach the alliance of the righteous sects rashly. After all, the primogenitors of the alliance of the righteous sects were there. Moreover, other than the primogenitors, there were many experts in the alliance of the righteous sects. Shi Song stopped when they were still far away from the alliance of the righteous sects. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun followed closely behind. They landed in a mountain forest. Shi Song said faintly, "You all stay here. I will go in by myself." He did not bring Xiao Chun and Lin Yun along, and he did not even bring his beast slaves. After all, with Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's strength, as long as they entered the alliance of righteous sects, they would not be able to hide from the primogenitor's divine consciousness. At that time, the four of them would be exposed, which would make things even more difficult. It was easier for the four of them to hide in the dark. It was the same for the beast slave. As for Shi Song, he had more techniques than the beast slave. Unlike the beast slave, who was a ferocious beast without spiritual power and could only fight with the power of qi and blood, Shi Song had endless techniques. One of them was a divine ability that could conceal one's aura. Song was very confident in his divine ability because even the primogenitors would find it difficult to detect Song after he used it. This was Song's confidence. He sneaked into the alliance of the righteous sex to investigate while Xiao Chun and the other two waited here. The beast slave did not have any objections. Clearly, the beast slave was very confident in Song's techniques. Although this old man was stubborn, his strength was not bad. Coupled with his ever-changing techniques, it was indeed impossible to guard against him. In front of Xiao Chun and the other two, Song directly used his concealing technique. In an instant, Song's aura disappeared instantly. Even though Song was standing in front of Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, the two of them could not sense Song's aura at all. It was as if he did not exist at all. It was a very powerful concealing technique. At least, it was the most powerful concealing technique that Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had seen so far. It was no wonder that Song was so confident. After making preparations, Song warned the three of them. All of you stay here and be careful not to expose yourselves. Also, the beast slave, especially you, don't mess around. Remember our purpose this time. Once you're exposed, the following things will be difficult. As soon as he finished speaking, Song's figure disappeared on the spot without waiting for the three of them to reply. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 2783. The most important thing now was not to expose their whereabouts. After all, this was the only advantage Xiao Chun and the others had. Once their whereabouts were exposed, then Xiao Chun and the others' subsequent actions would definitely be greatly affected. At that time, not to mention rescuing them, they might not even be able to leave the origin world safely. After all, even though Song and the beast slave weren't weak, they were still inferior to the primogenitors. The origin world was the primogenitors' territory, so Song and the beast slave would definitely not be able to protect Xiao Chun and Lin Yun by themselves. Song specially reminded them, especially the beast slave, because he knew that this girl loved to cause trouble and could easily ruin things. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun didn't mind Song's words, but the beast slave pouted unhappily. Meddling in other people's business. According to Song's instructions, the three of them waited patiently for Song's return. On the other side, Song, who had snuck into the alliance of righteous sex by himself, had successfully entered the alliance of righteous sex. Relying on his powerful concealment technique, Song was indeed not discovered along the way. Although Song sensed countless divine senses, scanning the entire alliance of righteous sex over and over again along the way, and there was even a strand of divine sense that came from a primogenitor, Song managed to avoid all of them. The entire alliance of righteous sex seemed to be unguarded, and there wasn't a single person at the entrance. However, it would be a grave mistake to think that the alliance of righteous sex had let down their guard just because of this. Not only did the alliance of righteous sex not let down their guard, it could even be said to be extremely tight. The reason there was no guard was because there was no need for that at all. The weakest person in the alliance of righteous sex was at the ancestor realm, and there were many world lords in the alliance of righteous sex. These people would be first-rate experts in the outside world, and their divine senses would have no problem enveloping the entire alliance of righteous sex. Therefore, with so many divine senses enveloping the alliance of righteous sex, was there a need for someone to specially guard it? Under the constant scanning of the divine sense, even a fly that flew into the righteous Tao alliance would be detected immediately. With such tight security, it was no wonder that Song didn't bring Xiao Chun and Lin Yun along. With their strength, even if they had a way to avoid the detection of an ancestor's divine sense, they wouldn't be able to avoid the detection of a world master's divine sense, let alone a primogenitor. Although the primogenitors couldn't use their divine sense to check the situation of the righteous alliance all the time, it wasn't a problem for them to do so from time to time. Under such circumstances, even Song had to be careful and tense, let alone Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. Song didn't care about the detection of an ancestor's divine sense at all, nor was he afraid of it. However, Sher Song didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless with the detection of a world master's divine sense. Therefore, after entering the alliance of righteous sex, Sher Song's speed wasn't fast. Every step he took was very careful, especially when he sensed the primogenitor's divine sense. Sher Song immediately stopped and used his concealment technique to completely conceal his aura. As long as a trace of his aura leaked out, it would definitely be detected by the primogenitor. Sher Song was very clear about this. However, as Sher Song advanced cautiously, he finally entered the alliance of righteous sex without any danger. Now, what Sher Song needed to do was naturally to investigate the whereabouts of Lu Bingning, Qin Shu, and the others. There was no need to think about using divine sense unless Sher Song wanted to expose his existence. Therefore, the best way was naturally to capture someone from the alliance of righteous sex and get the answer he wanted from him. He silently snuck into the residence of an expert of the Righteous Path Alliance. This expert was originally in the midst of cultivating, but he was caught off guard and was instantly captured by Sher Song. He instantly took action and sealed the powerful cultivator's cultivation. The powerful cultivator glared at Sher Song in shock and anger, and when he saw who it was, he shouted in agitation, "You're the one who killed me? Sher Song, how dare you trespass into the alliance of righteous sex?" As an expert from the alliance of righteous sex, this person naturally knew Sher Song. Even if he didn't know him, he must have seen a portrait or something. After all, ancient living beings had always been a big problem for the primogenitors. Needless to say, Sher Song had always lived on the road of origin. It could be said that he was one of the ancient living beings closest to the origin world. It was completely unexpected that Sher Song would suddenly appear in the origin world, in the alliance of righteous sex. Wasn't he always in seclusion on the road of origin? Moreover, how could the primogenitors not know that he had left the road of origin? It should be understood that the primogenitors were extremely concerned about any movement of an ancient living being. However, Sher Song had appeared in the alliance of righteous sex silently, and the primogenitors had not noticed him at all. This greatly shocked the expert. In response, Sher Song said indifferently, "I have something to ask you. If you can tell me honestly, we can have a good talk. If not, don't blame me." Sher Song, are you trying to provoke the primogenitors? Have you forgotten the rules? Without the primogenitor's summons, no ancient living being is allowed to enter the origin world. There was indeed such a rule. After all, the ancient living beings were too powerful and could threaten the origin world. Therefore, the primogenitors and the ancient living beings had set a rule. Without the primogenitor's summons or consent, no ancient living being was allowed to enter the origin world. This was to protect the origin world. In the past, there had never been an ancient living being entering the origin world without permission. However, Sher Song had broken this rule. If the primogenitors knew about this, Sher Song would definitely be severely punished. The primogenitors might even kill him at all costs. However, Sher Song did not care about this at all. After hearing what the expert said, Sher Song did not get angry. He only said indifferently, "It seems like you won't take the initiative to cooperate with me? Fine, I'll do it myself." Then, Sher Song did not wait for the expert's reply. He directly used his god soul to rush into the expert's mind and forcefully search through the expert's memories. This method was actually not rare. Xiao Chun had used it before. However, the expert in front of him was a world lord. To Sher Song, even a world lord could not stop him. He forcefully searched through the expert's memories to find the whereabouts of Qin Shu and Lu Bingning. In response, the expert's body twitched and his face turned extremely pale. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 2784. Sher Song's method could be said to be extremely violent, and this kind of forced memory search would cause irreversible damage to the human body. In this person's case, he would probably become a fool after Sher Song finished searching his memories. Sher Song's method could be said to be extremely violent, and this kind of forced memory search would cause irreversible damage to the human body. In this person's case, he would probably become a fool after Sher Song finished searching his memories. However, Sher Song had no intention of letting this person go. Moreover, this person definitely couldn't survive. After all, if he died, he could delay Xiao Chun and the others for a longer time. In just a few dozen breaths, Sher Song found what he wanted. In this person's memory, there was indeed information about Lu Bingning and the others. After getting the answer he wanted, Sher Song didn't feel the slightest bit of joy because things were more troublesome than he had imagined. Lu Bingning, Qin Shiru, and Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's families were now imprisoned in the Righteous Tao Alliance's green bamboo forest, while Mo, He, and Heizu's families were imprisoned in the Dark Age. In other words, the people Xiao Chun and the others wanted to save were now imprisoned in two different places. This undoubtedly greatly increased the difficulty of the rescue. Sher Song frowned slightly and withdrew his divine sense. At the same time, this expert from the Righteous Tao Alliance directly collapsed to the ground, his eyes empty. "This is a bit difficult," Sher Song murmured softly. Since he had obtained the answer, Sher Song naturally wouldn't stay here for long. As he spoke, he prepared to leave. However, before he left, Sher Song caught the spy who was investigating with his divine sense. With a point of his finger, this expert was directly beheaded. At the same time, Sher Song erased the corpse. Not even the corpse was left behind. It was as if this person didn't exist at all. After doing all this, Sher Song quietly left the Righteous Tao Alliance. He returned to the forest where Xiao Chun and the others were hiding. Seeing that Sher Song had returned safely, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun secretly sighed in relief. However, the beast's slave grumpily asked, "How is it? Did you get anything?" "I've already figured it out," Sher Song replied faintly. Hearing this, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were delighted. This was undoubtedly good news for them. However, after Sher Song told Xiao Chun and Lin Yun what had happened, their expressions became solemn again. Lu Bingning and Qin Shiru's families were imprisoned in the Righteous Tao Alliance, while Mo, He, and Heizu's families were imprisoned in the Dark Age. They were imprisoned in different places. If they rescued one of them first, they wouldn't have a chance to rescue the other. Once the rescue started, the primogenitors would find out. Thus, Xiao Chun and the others only had one chance. Moreover, after they succeeded, they had to go to Sher Song's secret space passage and leave the origin world immediately. Otherwise, no one would be able to leave at that time. In this way, it seemed that they only had the ability to rescue one side. They could only choose to rescue one side and give up on the other side. This was the best choice. Logically speaking, it wasn't difficult for Xiao Chun and Lin Yun to choose. Of course, rescuing their families was the most important. However, when they came to the origin world, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun had promised Heizu and Mo He that they would rescue their families. According to the development of the matter, if Xiao Chun and Lin Yun failed, it would be understandable. Heizu and Mo He wouldn't blame them. However, if Xiao Chun and Lin Yun succeeded in rescuing Lu Bingning and Qin Shiru, but didn't rescue Mo, He, and Heizu's families, what would they think? Moreover, with Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's personalities, they would definitely fulfill their promises. Giving up Heizu and Mo He's families wasn't something Xiao Chun and Lin Yun could do. Must-read room, therefore. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun quickly rejected the idea of rescuing one side and giving up the other side. Sher Song didn't say much about it. He just said, "If we want to rescue both sides, the difficulty will increase greatly. Moreover, the success rate will decrease greatly. After all, we only have one chance. If we don't succeed, we will die trying." There was no extra time for Xiao Chun and the others to rescue one side and then the other side. They didn't even need to wait for Xiao Chun and the others to rescue the other side, because the primal ancestors would have stopped them. After hesitating for a while, Xiao Chun finally said, "Let's split up. That's the only way we have a chance of success." It was impossible to rescue both sides. They had to split up and act at the same time. That was the only way they had a chance of success. While rescuing Lu Bingning and Qin Shiru, they had to rescue Heizu and Mo He's families who were in the Dark Age. After that, they would rush to Sher Song's secret space passage and leave the origin world. That was the only way. Hearing Xiao Qian's suggestion, Lin Yun didn't refuse. Shi Song didn't deny it either. As for the beast slave, it wasn't suitable for her to use her brain. Thus, she didn't want to participate. Since they couldn't give up He Zhu and Mo He's families, only Xiao Qian's method was feasible. However, Xiao Qian's group of 4 was small. If they had to split up, it would be more dangerous and risky. However, Xiao Qian still insisted. Lin Yun nodded in agreement after pondering for a while. In the end, according to the discussion between Shi Song, Xiao Qian, and Lin Yun, they decided that Shi Song would go to the Dark Age alone to rescue Mo He and He Zhu's families. The bee slave, Xiao Qian, and Lin Yun would go to the green bamboo forest to rescue Lu Bingning and Qin Shu. Shi Song nodded in agreement. The most important thing in this rescue mission was the bee slave and Shi Song. After all, with Xiao Qian and Lin Yun's strength, they probably couldn't even break the restrictions set by the primogenitors, let alone rescue them. Therefore, the beast slave and Shi Song had to be separated. Xiao Qian and Lin Yun would follow the beast slave because the beast slave was careless and might mess things up. Thus, Xiao Qian and Lin Yun would follow the beast slave. After settling the matter, Shi Song didn't delay and directly set off for the Dark Age. Before they left, they agreed to take action at the same time. Wait for my news. When I take action, all of you should take action as well. After you succeed, you can't delay. Head directly to the spatial tunnel. There's no need to wait. Leave the origin world first. We'll meet in the outside world. Shi Song instructed them before he left. Xiao Qian and Lin Yun nodded solemnly when they heard Shi Song. Then, Shi Song left alone and rushed to the Dark Age. Lin Yun and Xiao Qian continued to hide in the surroundings with the beast slave. After Shi Song arrived at the Dark Age, both sides would take action at the same time to carry out the rescue plan. To be honest, Xiao Qian and Lin Yun weren't confident about this rescue mission. However, they had to try no matter what. Please add it to your collection. Please recommend it. Chapter 2785. According to what they had discussed earlier, Xiao Qian, Lin Yun, and the beast slave had been hiding in the periphery of the Righteous Path Alliance. They didn't approach the Alliance rashly because if they were discovered at this time, all their efforts would be in vain. It was better to be careful. However, while they were hiding, Xiao Qian and the other 2 deliberately approached the green bamboo forest. Although the green bamboo forest was located in the center of the Righteous Path Alliance, Xiao Qian and the others could still adjust their direction so that they could approach the green bamboo forest at the fastest speed possible. Then, they could successfully rescue Lu Bingning, Qin Shu, and the others. They waited patiently for the news from Shi Song. In less than a day, at night, Shi Song finally sent a message. With Shi Song's strength and him being alone, his speed was naturally much faster than everyone moving together. He didn't plan to rest because late at night was the best time to act. After receiving Shi Song's message, Xiao Qian, Lin Yun, and the beast slave looked at each other and then nodded at the same time. Then, they directly charged towards the Righteous Path Alliance. At this moment, the 3 of them didn't care about their whereabouts being exposed. They only had one chance to rescue someone. The 3 of them knew that. Once they failed, let alone rescuing someone, they might not even be able to leave the origin world safely. Therefore, Xiao Qian and the others were racing against time. With their full speed, they charged into the Alliance of the Righteous Sex. Following their actions, the experts of the Alliance of the Righteous Sex naturally discovered the intruders. In an instant, terrifying auras soared into the sky from within the Alliance of the Righteous Sex. The weakest of these auras was at the Ancestor Realm. There were many auras at the World Lord Realm. Facing this, Xiao Qian and the others' expressions didn't change. The beast slave even shouted in a low voice, "Ignore them. Kill our way in." Now wasn't the time to be indecisive. They had to kill their way in and rescue someone in the shortest time possible. Hearing this, Xiao Qian and Lin Yun didn't reduce their speed either. They followed closely behind the beast slave, and the three of them rushed into the Righteous Path Alliance. However, just as the three of them entered the Righteous Tao Alliance, there were already experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance blocking their path. There weren't many of them, but they weren't weak. The Righteous Path Alliance's reaction was indeed very fast. Facing the sudden attack of the three, they reacted immediately. Moreover, these experts of the Righteous Path Alliance didn't need any orders at all. After detecting the intruders, they instantly understood what they had to do. Looking at the experts of the Righteous Alliance who were blocking his path, the beast slave did not slow down at all. Instead, he dashed forward and threw out a punch. The space crumbled as a terrifying chi and blood energy gushed out. With just one punch, he killed all the experts who were blocking his path. These people were all ancestor stage experts. However, they did not even have the ability to retaliate in front of the beast slave. Moreover, the beast slave did not hold back at all. Even though he was facing ancestor stage experts, the beast slave had used all of his strength in that punch in order to kill these people in the shortest time possible. He broke through the blockade of the experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance with just one punch. Then, the beast slave led Xiao Chun and Lin Yun towards the bamboo forest without slowing down. For the rest of the journey, the three of them were indeed blocked by many powerhouses from the Alliance of Righteous Sections. There were even powerhouses at the level of a world lord. When they saw the beast slave, Xiao Chun, and Lin Yun, they all shouted angrily. Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, are the two of you seeking death? You actually dared to trespass into the Righteous Tao Alliance. Aren't you afraid of the Lord Primogenitor's punishment? And you, beast slave, have you forgotten the rules? Without the Lord Primogenitor's permission, ancient living beings are not allowed to trespass into the origin world. Yet you actually dared to trespass into the Righteous Tao Alliance and kill their people. Beast slave, do you really think the Lord Primogenitor can't do anything to you? Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the beast slave's sudden appearance in the Righteous Tao Alliance had indeed shocked all the experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance. Who would have imagined that the three of them would actually arrive at the Righteous Tao Alliance without anyone noticing? Moreover, they had even used the cover of night to launch a surprise attack on the Righteous Tao Alliance. Such a thing had never happened since the Righteous Tao Alliance had been established. With the Righteous Tao Alliance's strength, besides their sworn enemy, the Dark Age, no one else would dare to do such an audacious thing. However, even if they were unwilling to believe it, the truth was right before their eyes. The beast slave, Xiao Chun, and Lin Yun had really appeared in the Righteous Tao Alliance. Moreover, they had killed many experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance. Of course, these experts had basically died at the hands of the beast slave. Along the way, the beast slave was simply like a god of death that had descended to the world. He did not give the experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance the slightest chance at all. So long as he encountered them, he would directly kill them. He was completely unreasonable. As for Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, they were more like following behind the beast slave, looking for opportunities to attack and kill some fish that had escaped the net. However, the three of them cooperated very well. The beast slave was the main, while Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were the support. Therefore, even though the experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance kept obstructing them, they were unable to stop Xiao Chun and the other two from breaking through. At this time, the three of them were already close to the green bamboo forest. However, just as they were about to enter the green bamboo forest, the three of them encountered the fiercest obstruction. They had the largest number of people, and their strength was also extremely strong. Just the world lords alone numbered as many as 9. These world lords blocked the path of Xiao Chun and the other two. They shouted angrily, intending to use the name of their ancestors to intimidate Xiao Chun and the other two. Unfortunately, what they received in response was the beast slave's fierce attack. Bullsh asterisk T. Even if you asked those old fellows to come out personally, I would not be afraid, let alone you shrimp soldiers and crab generals. The beast slave shouted coldly and took the lead to rush out. In the next moment, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun saw a scene that made them flabbergasted. The beast's slave was like a human-shaped tyrannosaurus, rampaging through the crowd. Even a world lord was directly grabbed by the beast's slave and turned into his weapon. With a world lord in his hand, the beast's slave rushed forward crazily. In the face of the beast slave's terrifying physical body and power of vitality, these experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance were completely helpless. With the strength of the beast slave's physical body, he simply ignored their attacks. As for these experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance, although their attacks were indeed effective against the beast slave, there was no way to cause fatal injuries. The beast slave, who had the appearance of a little girl, displayed violence at this moment, which did not match her appearance at all. It gave people a feeling that there was a huge difference. In this regard, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun naturally did not stay idle. As soon as the beast slave attacked, the two of them also attacked at the same time to help the beast slave. In the shortest time possible, they directly tore apart the blockade of the experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance. Seeking collection, seeking monthly votes, seeking recommendation. Chapter 2786. Stop them. Quick, stop them. Seeing that the beast slave, Xiao Chun, and Lin Yun were about to break through the encirclement, many experts from the Alliance of the Righteous Sects shouted angrily. Stop them. Quick, stop them. Seeing that the beast slave, Xiao Chun, and Lin Yun were about to break through the encirclement, many experts from the Alliance of the Righteous Sects shouted angrily. In the history of the Alliance of the Righteous Sects, this had never happened before. Therefore, if Xiao Chun, the beast slave, and the other two succeeded this time, it would be a great humiliation to the Alliance of the Righteous Sects. Following the roar of the crowd, the remaining experts from the Alliance of the Righteous Sects naturally did not dare to hold back. They all attacked fiercely towards Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the beast slave. Even so, the beast slave and the other two continued to approach the green bamboo forest. It was indeed difficult for these experts from the Alliance of the Righteous Sects to stop the beast slave, Xiao Chun, and the other two, especially the beast slave. As an ancient creature, the beast slave's strength was far from what these experts from the Alliance of the Righteous Sects could compare with. Moreover, in order to buy time, the beast slave did not hold back at all from the beginning and went all out. In this way, with the beast slave leading the way, it was indeed impossible for the Alliance of the Righteous Sects to stop Xiao Chun and the other two. Resisting the attacks of many experts from the Alliance of the Righteous Sects, the three of them rushed all the way into the green bamboo forest. At this time, the green bamboo forest, which was supposed to trap Qinshu, Lu Bingning, and the others, became a stumbling block for many experts from the Alliance of the Righteous Sects. No. After Xiao Chun and the other two rushed into the green bamboo forest, the green bamboo forest sensed that someone had invaded and instantly began to move automatically. However, the experts from the Alliance of the Righteous Sects who were chasing after them were blocked by the green bamboo forest. With their attacks, there was no way they could break through green bamboo's defense. After all, this green bamboo forest was personally planted by green bamboo. At the same time, it was carefully cultivated. The green bamboo in this bamboo forest could completely withstand the attacks of a world lord. As they watched Xiao Chun and the other two enter the green bamboo forest, they could only watch anxiously from the outside. Immediately, someone asked, "Where is Lord Primogenitor?" He could only rely on the primogenitors. After all, the beast slave was an ancient being. Only the primogenitors could subdue him. However, all of this had happened too suddenly. Moreover, less than 100 breaths of time had passed since Xiao Chen's group had attacked, so the primogenitors had probably only just received the news. It was certain that Xiao Chen's actions had been planned long ago. Perhaps they had been lying in ambush around the Righteous Path Alliance, waiting for an opportunity to attack. Although they had guessed that Xiao Chun and the other two had been lying in ambush around the Righteous Path Alliance, they could not change anything now that things had come to this. In the green bamboo forest, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were also unable to cause any damage to the green bamboo forest. The green bamboo forest continued to gather towards Xiao Chun and the other two. Secondly, it was obvious that they wanted to completely surround the three of them. However, the beast slave could destroy the green bamboo forest. After all, she was an ancient being and her strength was far greater than a world lord's. The green bamboo forest could withstand the attack of a world lord, but it could not withstand the attack of an ancient being. Just like that, the beast slave had become a pathfinder. She led Xiao Chun and Lin Yun all the way into the depths of the green bamboo forest. QQ, the beast slave, destroyed any green bamboo forest that blocked their way without hesitation. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun followed closely behind the beast slave and did not do anything unnecessary. To be honest, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun could not do anything in front of the green bamboo forest. Fortunately, they had the beast slave. Otherwise, even if Xiao Chun and Lin Yun successfully enter the green bamboo forest, they would not be able to find Qin Shu, Lu Bingning, and the others. Instead, they would be trapped in the green bamboo forest. However, now that they had the beast slave, everything was different. The beast slave's strength was enough to destroy the green bamboo forest. This left Xiao Chun and Lin Yun with a lot of trouble. Along the way, they did not have the time to think about other things. Instead of saying that Xiao Chun and the other two were dealing with the green bamboo forest, it was more like a race against time. After all, they had to rescue Qin Shu, Lu Bingning, and the others before the primogenitors arrived. Only then would they have a chance to escape. The beast slave clearly understood the importance of time. Therefore, at this moment, the beast slave did not dare to be careless. He ran all the way. Soon, the group of people broke through the green bamboo forest and arrived outside the important courtyard of the green bamboo forest. Qin Shu, Lu Bingning, and the others naturally noticed what was happening in the green bamboo forest early on. Looking at the changes in the green bamboo forest, Qin Shu and the others guessed that someone had broken into the green bamboo forest. During this period, the few of them spent a lot of effort investigating the green bamboo forest. They knew that the green bamboo forest was definitely not as simple as it looked on the surface. As long as there was an intruder, the green bamboo forest would automatically defend against the intruder. The various changes just now all told them that someone had indeed broken into the green bamboo forest, and the green bamboo forest was frantically defending against the intruder. Since they did not know who had broken into the green bamboo forest, Qin Shu and the others quickly became alert and looked outside the courtyard with burning eyes. Under everyone's gaze, the movements in the green bamboo forest became louder and louder. Moreover, they could feel that the intruder was getting closer and closer to them. Just when Qin Shu, Lu Bingning, and the others' hearts were in their throats, the beast slave took the lead to kill his way out of the green bamboo forest. They did not know the beast slave, but soon Xiao Chun and Lin Yun appeared. Qin Shu, Lu Bingning, and the others were delighted. They did not expect Xiao Chun and Lin Yun to come. Without thinking much, the few of them immediately went up to them. Seeing that everyone was fine, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun also felt relieved. However, now was not the time to relax. They had not come into contact with danger yet. Xiao Chun did not have time to say much and only said one sentence. Now is not the time to talk. Let's go. Although they also had a lot to say to Qin Shu and the others, now was obviously not the time. Seeing Qin Shu and the others did not mean that they had succeeded. Don't forget that they had not left the origin world yet. Before leaving the origin world, they could not relax their vigilance. Otherwise, all their previous efforts would be in vain. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Qin Shu and the others were very obedient. Knowing that the situation was critical, they immediately followed Xiao Chun and Lin Yun and quickly left the green bamboo forest. They did not go back the way they came. Instead, the beast slave led the way, and everyone rushed out of the green bamboo forest in another direction. This was also Xiao Chen's plan. After all, the other side of the green bamboo forest was closer to the periphery of the Alliance of Righteous Sects. As long as they left the green bamboo forest from the other side, they could escape from the Alliance of Righteous Sects immediately. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 2787. Along the way, Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others were extremely nervous because the next step was the most dangerous one. No one knew when the primogenitors would appear. According to the previous plan, before the primogenitors appeared, Xiao Chun and the others had to successfully escape from the Alliance of Righteous Sects. If they were blocked by the primogenitors in the Alliance of Righteous Sects, Xiao Chun and the others would not have any hope of escaping even with the help of the beast slave. Therefore, the most critical problem they faced was whether they could escape from the Alliance of Righteous Sects before the primogenitors arrived. The beast slave also knew this, so when he attacked, he did not hesitate. The green bamboos blocking the way were directly smashed by the beast slave. In the green bamboo forest, the beast slave forcefully opened a bloody path for Xiao Chun and the others. Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others followed behind the beast slave without stopping. Even Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin knew that the current situation was critical. They did not dare to be careless and only follow by the others. This was definitely a life and death escape, so there was no room for carelessness. They rushed out of the green bamboo forest from the other side. However, after rushing out of the green bamboo forest, there were also experts from the Alliance of Righteous Sects blocking the way. Xiao Chun and the others were not surprised at all. At this moment, the entire green bamboo forest was probably surrounded. Therefore, it was not surprising that there were experts from the Alliance of Righteous Sects in this direction. Fortunately, these experts from the Alliance of Righteous Sects had obviously just arrived. Before they were ready, they saw Xiao Chun and the others rushing out of the green bamboo forest. Therefore, when they saw Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others, these experts from the Alliance of Righteous Sects were obviously more surprised than Xiao Chun and the others. This was because they did not expect Xiao Chun and the others to escape from the green bamboo forest so quickly. However, they simply ignored their surprise. When both sides met, Xiao Chun and the others did not hesitate at all and immediately attacked. What a joke. If he still wanted to waste time at this time, he would really be tired of living. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's side took the initiative to attack, still with the beast slave at the center. The beast slave charged at the front, while Xiao Chun and the rest followed closely behind the beast slave as support. The group of people were like sharp spears, directly charging into the blockade of the Righteous Sects Alliance, breaking out of the encirclement. On one hand, they weren't prepared at all. On the other hand, they hadn't expected Xiao Chen's group to appear so quickly. Thus, in just a single exchange, the blockade set up by the experts of the Righteous Path was torn apart by Xiao Chen's group. This was especially true for the beast slaves, as no one was able to stop them. Without the primogenitor around, the beast slaves were absolutely invincible. Xiao Chun and the others did not waste much time in breaking through the blockade set up by the cultivators of the Alliance of the Righteous. Although the experts of the Righteous Tao Alliance from other places rushed over as soon as they noticed the commotion, they were still a step too late in the end and couldn't successfully surround Xiao Chen's group. After breaking through the blockade, Xiao Chen's group didn't stop. They charged out of the Righteous Tao Alliance without the slightest intention of lingering in the battle. The battle erupted in an instant and ended in an instant. In almost the blink of an eye, the beast slave led Xiao Chen's group out of the encirclement and charged out of the Righteous Tao Alliance's group. At the same time, a terrifying aura descended from the sky. Needless to say, it was the arrival of the primogenitors of the Righteous Tao Alliance. Century, the beast slave, and the rest frowned. They didn't feel the slightest bit of joy because they knew that the real test was coming. The primogenitors had already appeared. Fortunately, according to the previous plan, they had successfully broken through the blockade of the Righteous Tao Alliance before the primogenitors appeared. Now that they had successfully charged out of the Righteous Tao Alliance, they still had a chance. They charged out without looking back. At the same time, behind Xiao Chen's group, Qing Zhu and another primogenitor of the Righteous Tao Alliance appeared in the sky above the green bamboo forest. Seeing the destruction of the green bamboo forest by the beast slave, a cold glint flashed across Qing Zhu's eyes. He said coldly, What a beast slave. It seems like you really want to die. He knew that this was the work of the beast slave. After all, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun weren't able to do this. Moreover, they were able to successfully rescue Qin Shu, Lu Bingning, and the others because of the beast slave's help. Otherwise, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun wouldn't have been able to do it. The ancient creatures had always been a great threat to the primogenitors. The actions of the beast slave had undoubtedly touched the bottom line of the primogenitors. Not only had he violated the agreement between the ancient creatures and the primogenitors by entering the origin world without permission, but he had also dared to directly attack the headquarters of the Righteous Tao Alliance. This was no different than openly challenging the dignity of the primogenitors. Seal all the entrances and exits of the origin world. Qingzu immediately gave the order to seal all the entrances and exits of the origin world. He wanted to catch a turtle in a jar. Without these passages, Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others couldn't leave the origin world. As long as they stayed in the origin world, Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others would have nowhere to run. Of course, Qingzu naturally didn't know that other than the spatial passages that they controlled, there was actually another secret spatial passage that connected the origin world to the outside world. This passage had been constructed by Song. From the beginning, Xiao Chun and the others hadn't thought about leaving the origin world through the passages of the primogenitors because that was equivalent to walking right into a trap. Therefore, after Xiao Chun and the others had charged out of the Righteous Tao Alliance, they had headed straight for Song's spatial passage. That spatial passage could be said to be Xiao Chun and the others' only life-saving straw. Without that spatial passage, even if Xiao Chun and the others succeeded in rescuing Qin Shu and Lu Bingning, they obviously wouldn't be able to leave the origin world, because the primogenitors would definitely seal all the spatial passages that led to the origin world. In that way, Xiao Chun and the others would be trapped in the origin world and become turtles in a jar. However, it was different now. With Song's spatial passage, Xiao Chun and the others could leave the origin world without anyone noticing. At that time, even if the primogenitors found out, it would be useless. Apparently, Ancestor Qing didn't know that there was a space passage in the origin world that none of them knew about. After giving the order to seal the entire origin world, the anger in Ancestor Qing's eyes slowly dispersed. In his eyes, Xiao Chun and the others couldn't escape. Even if they escaped from the alliance of the Orthodox sects, it didn't matter. The entire origin world had become an even bigger cage that trapped Xiao Chun and the others inside. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 2788. Qingzhu thought that as long as he sealed the entire origin world, Xiao Chun and the others wouldn't be able to escape. They would be trapped like turtles in a jar. However, he didn't know that there was a space tunnel in the origin world that none of them knew about. In the end, Qingzhu and the others were too confident and underestimated their opponents. They always thought that Xiao Chun and the others were nothing. Even if they had the help of the bee slaves, they were still fish on the chopping block of the primogenitors. It would be easy to capture them. Because of this underestimation, Qingzhu and the others didn't chase after them immediately. This gave Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others a chance. Perhaps in Qingzhu's opinion, even if Xiao Chun and the others ran away, where could they go? The origin world was their territory. After so many years, the origin world had become as solid as a rock. As long as the primogenitors didn't allow it, even a fly couldn't fly out. Seeing that Qingzhu didn't chase after them immediately and instead gave the order to seal the entire origin world, the bee slaves who were running all the way sneered. This group of idiots, one day they will pay for their arrogance. Seeing that Qingzhu and the others didn't chase after them immediately, the bee slaves naturally knew what Qingzhu and the others were thinking. They were just arrogant and didn't take them seriously. However, regardless of whether it was because of Qingzhu's arrogance or something else, his action was undoubtedly giving Xiao Chun and the others chance. Without thinking much, they ran towards the space tunnel that Song had used. Qin Shu, Liu Bingning, and the others didn't know about Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's plan. However, they were smart enough not to ask anything along the way. Anyway, they trusted their husbands unconditionally. The route had been planned long ago. Therefore, after they escaped from the alliance of the righteous sects, they ran towards the secret space tunnel according to the route they had planned. They didn't dare to stop along the way. On the other side, after Qing Zhu gave the order to seal the entire origin world, he said to another primogenitor, "These ancient creatures are getting more and more outrageous. Then let's kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Let's start with the beast slaves. They're like turtles in a jar now." The primogenitor laughed. It was unknown whether it was because they had been at the top for too long, but no one could threaten the primogenitors. Therefore, these primogenitors were extremely arrogant. They felt that everything in the world was under their control. No matter what they encountered, they didn't take their opponents seriously at all. To put it nicely, they were confident to say that they were confident. But to put it bluntly, they were arrogant. Qing Zhu and the others. It could be said that Qing Zhu and the others didn't chase after them. Qing Zhu to Xiao ants. In Qing Zhu's mind, even if he let Xiao Chun and the others run, where could they run to? The entire origin world was like a huge cage to Xiao Chun and the others. Everything was under his control. However, Qing Zhu didn't know that Xiao Chun and the others had already opened a hole in this huge cage. It was big enough for them to crawl out and escape with their lives. 29. Qing Zhu's overconfidence had caused him to miss the best opportunity to capture them. At the same time, it was also good news for Xiao Chun and the others to escape. Overconfidence in many things would turn into arrogance. Qing Zhu was like that now. He always felt that everything was under his control. However, he didn't know that things had already gotten out of his control. Qing Zhu said coldly, "Cornered beasts will still put up a desperate fight. Everyone in the world is always so ignorant. Arrange for someone to locate them." Qing Zhu felt that Xiao Chun and the others were like cornered beasts. Even if they rescued them, they wouldn't be able to leave the origin world. In the end, nothing could be changed. Xiao Chun and the others naturally didn't know what Qing Zhu was thinking. At this moment, they were already far away from the alliance of righteous sects. They were rushing through Shi Song's space passage. Seeing that Qing Zhu and the others still hadn't caught up with them, they were secretly relieved. However, they still didn't slow down. Before they escaped from the origin world, Xiao Chun didn't dare to relax. Glancing at Qin Shu, Honored Flower Fairy, and the others beside him, Xiao Chun smiled. Fortunately, they didn't attack him. Moreover, they had successfully escaped. This was the most perfect result. Xiao Chun didn't dare to have any more extravagant hopes. The plan went smoother than expected. Qin Shu, Hundred Flower Fairy, and the others also felt relieved after seeing Xiao Chun. Although they didn't say anything, their hearts were at peace. At least, compared to the previous period of time, this was the case. They arrived at Shi Song's space passage without any obstructions. When Xiao Chun and the others arrived, they were very surprised to see that Shi Song had also brought Mo He, Ancestor He, and the others' families here. Seeing that Shi Song had successfully rescued them, Beast Slave didn't ask much and directly said, "You've arrived so quickly. Those old bastards must not have stopped you, right? Those old bastards are all arrogant. They always think that everything is under their control." "How ridiculous," Shi Song said with a smile. Shi Song's situation was similar to Xiao Chen's. At the last moment, Ancestor Mu and the others from the Dark Era didn't chase after them. Instead, they chose to seal the origin world, just like Qing Zhu. The same confidence allowed Ancestor Mu and the others to obtain the same result. It also allowed Shi Song to easily bring them to the space passage. Beast Slave smiled disdainfully when he heard Shi Song's words. Then, the group didn't linger. They directly rushed into the space passage and disappeared from the origin world. Ancestor Qing, Ancestor Mu, and the others probably didn't expect that Xiao Chun and the others, who seemed like cornered beasts to them, had already safely left the origin world. They were still searching for Xiao Chun and the others' whereabouts in the origin world. Their arrogance made them pay the price. They missed the best opportunity to capture Xiao Chun and the others. This incident undoubtedly told the primogenitors that not everything in this world was under their control. The beings in this world that they had always looked down on weren't as ignorant as they had imagined. Please add, please vote, please recommend. Chapter 2789. Xiao Chen's group successfully rushed into Shi Song's spatial tunnel and escaped. Inside the origin world, many experts were still conducting a thorough search under the command of the primogenitors. In everyone's opinion, it was impossible for Xiao Chen's group to leave the origin world because all the tunnels between the origin world and the outside world were sealed immediately. As long as Xiao Chen's group appeared, they would be detected immediately. Therefore, everyone was sure that Xiao Chen's group was still in the origin world. However, no one realized that Xiao Chen's group had already left the origin world. It was worth mentioning that the primogenitors did not participate in the search personally. In their opinion, they did not need to take action. They only needed to capture the beast slaves at the crucial moment. As for Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others, to be honest, the primogenitors did not take them seriously at all. Arrogance was the biggest flaw of the primogenitors. However, this was not important to Xiao Chen's group. At this moment, the group returned to the road of origin through Shi Song's spatial tunnel and successfully left the origin world. It was an extremely dangerous operation. However, the final result was undoubtedly perfect. Not only did they successfully rescue their families, but everyone was also fine. The feeling of surviving a disaster rose in everyone's hearts. Xiao Chun could not help but smile when he saw that Qin Shu and the other women were fine. At the same time, he asked Xiao Qing and Bai Ruyue with concern, "Father, Mother, are you okay?" Xiao Chun blamed himself for causing the two of them to suffer such an unexpected disaster. However, Xiao Qing and Bai Ruyue smiled to show that they were fine. In fact, the primogenitors did not make things difficult for them when they were captured and brought to the origin world. In other words, they did not see any other primogenitors except for Ancestor Qing. Ancestor Qing did not harm them. He only restricted their movements and did not deliberately punish them in any other way. Their parents were fine. Then, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun looked at the beast slaves. Shi Song said, "Shall we go back together?" Shi Song and the beast slave were now considered to be in the same camp. Therefore, after successfully breaking out of the encirclement, it was time for everyone to leave. Hearing this, the beast slave smiled and said, "I'll go with you, but this old man is probably going to visit other ancient creatures." The beast slaves indicated that he would go with Xiao Chen's group. As for Shi Song, he was going to contact other ancient life forms. Naturally, Shi Song and the beast slaves could only complete the task of roping in other ancient life forms. It was not that Xiao Chen's group did not want to help, but they could not help if they caused trouble. Putting aside the fact that Xiao Chun had no idea where the other ancient creatures were, even if he did, given their tempers, they probably wouldn't bother with him. Only Shi Song and the beast slave, who were also ancient creatures, could speak to them as equals. Therefore, Xiao Chun did not say much about Shi Song and the beast slave's decision. He only bowed respectfully to Shi Song and said, "Thank you, Senior." The ancient life forms were the only hope for Xiao Chen's group to fight against the origin world. Only by relying on the ancient life forms' powerful strength could the various universes have a chance to fight against the origin world. 16K Chinese otherwise, the world lords like Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were no match for the primogenitors. Although the primogenitors did not seem to care about them now, when they really took action, Xiao Chen's alliance would be destroyed in an instant without the protection of the ancient life forms. It could be said that the ancient life forms were the hope of Xiao Chen's group. Therefore, Shi Song's departure was inevitable. At the same time, Xiao Chen also hoped that Shi Song would gain something from this trip. He hoped that the other ancient life forms would understand the seriousness of this so-called new world and unite to fight against the origin world. Shi Song did not chat too much. After coming up with a plan, Shi Song left alone. Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others also left on the spatial spirit boat. The group gradually left the origin world. On the spatial spirit boat, Xiao Chun, Qin Shu, Honored Flower Fairy, and the other girls were gathered together. Lin Yun was also with her family. However, the bee slaves were always with Xiao Chun. Although the bee slaves was an ancient life form, she had a very cheerful personality. Soon, she had become friends with Qin Shu, Honored Flower Fairy, and the other girls. Xiao Chun was naturally happy to see this. Having a good relationship with the bee slaves was absolutely beneficial to Xiao Chun. Moreover, the rescue mission this time was all thanks to the bee slaves. If it weren't for her, they probably wouldn't have succeeded. Therefore, Xiao Chun was very grateful to the bee slaves. As they were chatting, Honored Flower Fairy sat next to Xiao Chun and asked gently, "Husband, are we really going to fight against the origin world?" After being kidnapped to the origin world, Honored Flower Fairy naturally knew about the plan of the primogenitors about the new world. She also knew that her husband had established an alliance with the intention of fighting against the origin world. Although Honored Flower Fairy did not like this new world and was even against it, she couldn't help but feel worried when she thought about how Xiao Chun would fight against the origin world in the future. Zhu said indifferently, as if he didn't care about the attack of the beast slave. Upon hearing this, the beast slave's eyes blazed with anger, as if he couldn't wait to kill the old man in front of him with one punch. Ignoring the anger in the beast slave's eyes, Zhu gently pushed his palm. The beast slave staggered and took a few steps back uncontrollably. Zhu smiled after easily stopping the beast slave's attack. "Now, do you still think the beast slave alone can save you?" These words were undoubtedly directed at Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. Upon hearing this, the two's expressions became extremely solemn. Judging from the current situation, Zhu's words weren't exaggerated at all. The beast slave might be able to protect himself when facing Zhu, but he definitely couldn't protect Xiao Chun and the others. Just as Zhu said, the beast slave alone couldn't stop him if he wanted to kill someone. He looked at Zhu with fear. In response, Zhu seemed to think of something and chuckled. "Oh, right, there's one more thing. Where did Shi Song go?" Shi Song played an important role in helping you escape from the origin world. Why isn't he here? As he spoke, Zhu glanced indifferently at the cabin. Upon hearing Zhu mention Shi Song, Xiao Chun and the others didn't reply because Shi Song was indeed not here. At present, there was only the beast slave alone. Judging from the situation, the beast slave couldn't stop Zhu, begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. End of chapter. Chapter 2792. The four of them stood on the deck and were surrounded by Xiao Chun and the other two. Zhu looked very relaxed from the beginning until the end. When he saw that Xiao Chun and the other two had fallen silent, Zhu smiled and said to himself. The four of them stood on the deck and were surrounded by Xiao Chun and the other two. Zhu looked very relaxed from the beginning until the end. When he saw that Xiao Chun and the other two had fallen silent, Zhu smiled and said to himself. It seems that Shi Song isn't here anymore. What a pity. If Shi Song was here, perhaps you would have a chance today. However, there's only the beast slave now. You don't even have a chance. If Shi Song and the beast slave joined forces, perhaps they could create a chance for Xiao Chun and the others to escape. At that time, it wouldn't be impossible for the two of them to join forces to entangle Zhu. However, Shi Song wasn't here now. There was only the beast slave. The beast slave couldn't even stop Zhu. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun still didn't answer when they heard Zhu's words. Although the strength that Xiaozhu had displayed was overwhelming, Xiaozhu hadn't really made a move until now. Even so, Xiaozhu had still easily suppressed Xiao Chun and blocked the beast slave's punch. He had even successfully repelled her. This was enough to prove Xiaozhu's strength. Seeing that Xiao Chun and Linyan didn't answer, Xiaozhu smiled faintly and said, "What? Are you regretting it now? Do you know how foolish you were?" Xiaozhu's words seemed to be mocking Xiao Chun and the others for overestimating themselves and thinking that they could resist the origin world with just this little strength. However, Xiao Chun and Linyan didn't hear any mockery from Xiaozhu's tone at all. Instead, it sounded as if he expected better from them. Moreover, up until now, Xiao Chun also felt that something wasn't right. It was Xiaozhu's performance. Xiao Chun didn't think that Xiaozhu, as a primogenitor, would be so bored to talk so much nonsense to them without making a move. Logically speaking, Xiaozhu had come here to kill Xiao Chun and the others. However, up until now, Xiaozhu didn't seem to have any intention of making a move. If Xiaozhu really wanted to kill them, he would have done so long ago. Why would he talk so much nonsense? Could it be that Xiaozhu had other motives for coming here? What do you mean exactly? Speaking so much nonsense, it can't be purely to humiliate us, right? In any case, Xiao Chun didn't feel the slightest murderous intent. Moreover, Xiaozhu's performance from the beginning to the end was very strange. Secondly, Xiao Chun and the others didn't have any power to resist Xiaozhu. To put it bluntly, they were fish on the chopping board, lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Therefore, Xiao Chun didn't hesitate and asked bluntly. Facing Xiao Chun's question, Xiaozhu revealed a faint smile. It was the first time Xiaozhu had smiled. Let alone the entire primal origin world. I'm afraid you guys can't even deal with one primal ancestor. Although you have the help of the beast slaves now, you still need to be strong to forge iron. You guys are still too weak. You can't fight against the primal ancestors. The addition of the ancient creatures gave Xiao Chun and the others more confidence. However, it still wasn't enough. If they wanted to fight against the primal origin world, Xiao Chun and the others had to constantly break through their limits. However, Xiao Chun and the others had already reached the level of World Lord. They didn't know how to improve themselves. After all, the level of World Lord was the limit for ordinary people. There was no possibility for them to improve further. This was the difference in the level of life. For the ancient creatures like the beast slaves, everything was destined from the moment they were born. They were blessed by the heavens. That was why they had the strength that far surpassed the level of World Lord. As for the primal ancestors, it was needless to say. As for Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, as ordinary people, they didn't have the unique advantages that the ancient creatures and the primal ancestors had. Therefore, the level of World Lord was their limit. It was like a water tank. The amount of water it could hold was predetermined from the beginning. If you kept pouring water into the tank, it would all leak out in the end because the tank was only so big and could only hold so much water. Understanding this, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun felt helpless when they heard Xiaozhu's words. They naturally wanted to improve their strength, but there was no way. This wasn't something that could be solved by their own efforts. Seeing what Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were thinking, Xiaozhu finally said faintly, "There's a place that can satisfy your conditions. However, no one knows if it will succeed. You are already the World Lord. If you want to improve further, you can only seek a breakthrough in the level of life. You can make your life form an existence comparable to the ancient creatures. In this world, there's only one place that can achieve this step." Xiaozhu didn't keep them in suspense. Soon, he told Xiao Chun and Lin Yun the method. Heaven and earth had a spirit. This heaven and earth naturally had its own consciousness. It created this world and set up the rules. The place where the spirit of heaven and earth was located was called the place of creation. Everyone thought that the origin world was the starting point of this world's birth. However, in reality, that wasn't the case. The place of creation appeared earlier than the origin world. This was the place where the spirit of heaven and earth was located. The primogenitors and primordial beings were all born in the land of creation. If Shao Chun and the others wanted to compete with the primogenitors and break through the level of World Lord, there was only one way. Chapter 2794. In the land of creation, Shao Chun and the other two were stunned when they heard Qiu Zu's words before he left. They murmured softly to themselves. In the land of creation, Shao Chun and the other two were stunned when they heard Qiu Zu's words before he left. They murmured softly to themselves. Even Lin Yun had never heard of the land of creation, let alone Shao Chun. However, according to Qiu Zu, the land of creation should be the only place that could help everyone. Only the land of creation could allow ordinary life forms like Shao Chun and Lin Yun to have the possibility of breaking through to become world lords. The bee slaves, Shi Song, and the other ancient life forms were strong because they were strong in terms of life forms. It could be said that they were destined to have a gap with ordinary life forms the moment they were born. Many ordinary life forms would probably only be able to reach the same height as the bee slaves in their entire lives. This was the unique advantage of the ancient life forms and the primogenitors. Just as Shao Chun and Lin Yun were pondering over Qiu Zu's words, Qiu Zu's voice rang in their ears again. By the way, Dark Epic's ancestor Mu has personally gone to the primordial world. He's different from me. If you're not confident, it's best not to return to the primordial world. Qiu Zu had come to hunt down Shao Chun and the others while Ancestor Mu had gone to the primordial world to destroy Shao Chun's alliance. Shao Chun and the other two's faces turned ugly when they heard Qiu Zu's words. The primogenitors had finally made a move. Although Qiu Zu had chosen to let Shao Chun and the others off because of him, Ancestor Mu wouldn't be as easy to talk to as Qiu Zu. Ancestor Mu was now rushing to the primordial world. It was obvious that Mu Lingxian and the others wouldn't be able to stop him. When the time came, the entire alliance might be destroyed. As a result, Shao Chun and the others were now faced with a choice. Should they go or not? If they didn't go, the alliance would definitely be destroyed. However, if they went, what could Shao Chun and the others do to help? The bee slaves could indeed resist for a while. However, based on what had happened to Qiu Zu, the bee slaves still paled in comparison to the primogenitors. It would be very difficult for the bee slave to withstand the primogenitor's attack by himself. Qiu Zu had also kindly reminded him that if he wasn't confident, it would be best not to go back on his word. After all, it would be no different from committing suicide. However, Shao Chun and Lin Yun were extremely unwilling to watch Mu Lingxian, Ancestor He, and Mo he be killed by Ancestor Mu. Moreover, if the alliance was destroyed, it would mean that all the efforts that Shao Chun and the others had put in would be for naught. Without the alliance, Shao Chun and the others would have to start from scratch.